Well, hello, my YouTube friends and family. I hope everybody had a great day. We have water down. We have no water at this time. So it's lovely here. It's awful not having any water, let me tell you. So I got wonderful dyed coffee paper. Well, hey, Tupac, where you been hiding? Oh, tired. It's been a long day. I had the store closed today because I had a doctor's appointment. And now we have no water because we have a water break. You know, the lovely usual. What have you been up to? Just been busy? Well, hey, Terry. I hope you had a better day than me. How's your job going? Terry, have you met Tupac? Tupac, this is Terry. He's up close to you, eh? Except he's not in Canada. You know, I have a hard time telling the difference sometimes until I listen to some people, you know, that's in Minnesota. I think the closer they are to the Canadian border, they pick up your accent. At least that's what I think anyways. I don't know though. I've heard Terry talk. Terry sounds like Terry. Even though he acts all shy, we know he's really not. He just hides. We need to bring him out of his shell, Tupac. We need to give Terry courage. See, Terry, you can help me with my live sale. All you got to do is get up here and type and talk. You don't even got to show yourself if you don't want to. I need a person that I can sit and gab with. And it's long, though. The hours are very long. It's like starts at like 5 o'clock East Coast time to around 11 to midnight. And I was going to have Amy help me, but we went live on Friday and I couldn't get a hold of her. I don't have her email to get in touch with her. And I got to pick a date to do the live sale. I haven't done it yet. It'll probably be, it won't be the second week in July. It can't be the first week in July because of the holiday. So it'll probably be, I'm going for maybe the fourth week because I have some things coming up I have to take care of. So I will be indisposed on July the 10th and 11th. So I sat and I dyed paper today. I'm making grungy coffee paper that smells absolutely wonderful. I did something different in the scent this time just to see what I could come up with. So I'm playing with my paper. I got to start working on some Christmas presents. YouTube's been buffering a lot for some reason. Okay, I refreshed. Well, I got it on Top Chat instead of live. I need it on live chat. Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back, guys. I'm still baking paper, so give me a second. I got to take it out of the oven. It smells so good in my house right now. I'm here. I'm here. I'm coming back. Hey, Blood. If you're still in here, hello. I don't know if Blood left or not. I'm baking paper. It does. It smells so good in this house when I bake paper that you think I'm baking cookies. But I'm not. Yeah, but what I'm creating is going to take me a little while, so I get started early, Terry. I like having my stuff done. The worst Christmas I ever had was one year my husband decided to go shopping at the last minute. We're talking like Christmas Eve or, you know, after Black Friday when everything's wiped out. He loves doing that too. And I kept telling him, don't make me wait. This is one thing I hated about not working at the time. And I had a job, but it was 6 months off, 6 months off. And needless to say, I'm better prepared than that. And what happened was he made me wait till the very last minute, and we have big families. So needless to say, I was not a happy camper on Christmas Day when it came, and I was still wrapping Christmas presents at 12 o'clock noon. When we have 2 places to visit that day, and I wasn't even done yet. My kids didn't even get to enjoy their Christmas. It was a nightmare. So I won't do that again. I'd rather have my stuff done 6 months ahead of time than at the last minute because it was awful. I like being prepared. Look how grungy that looks. Where's Patty? Patty, where you at? Grungy paper. She likes grungy paper. I like grungy paper. But anyways, if you take and Terry, you probably could even do some of this stuff. It'd be cool to kind of see what a man would come up with in the journaling world, especially with your heritage. That would be really cool to see you do something homemade to represent your tribe. That would be awesome. Because what I do is, I think I did a video a while ago on how I do coffee dyed paper. You can do tea, you can do coffee. I put a little vanilla in it to give it scent because it smells good, like a cap or 2 full. But I get 2 cookie sheets that I put it on 250 and let it preheat. And then I put aluminum foil over the cookie sheets. And then I bake 4 pieces of paper at a time. I put gloves on. Well, coffee's, if it's hot, your paper will fall apart. So you want to leave it sit there for a little bit. I leave mine sit and cool off, but I make it as dark as I possibly can without overflowing the basket of coffee. I fill it up probably half full. And it doesn't have to be a brand name. It could be an off-brand, whatever's cheap. And I lay these out 4 at a time on 2 cookie sheets because that's all it holds. Oh no! And then you bake in 15 minutes a piece. And they don't burn in the oven or nothing. They cook. And you're leaving me. You just got here. Oh, Terry, you're always such a busy boy. Well, hurry back. I like jibber jabbing with people while I craft. I think it's fun because we don't really have any crafting people around me, which is really sad, at least not that I know of. So I come online and jibber jab or listen to somebody jibber jab and just craft away. I just hate when the papers rip. Sometimes they rip if you don't lay them just right. Somebody asked me if, I think it was Luz, asked me if I ironed my papers. I've never ironed my papers. That would be interesting. Might flatten out some of this crinkle a little bit. But I've never done it. I just bake them, pull them out, and flatten them with a notebook thing I have. Trapper Keeper. Since I took the day off the bookstore, I decided to bake papers. I needed some more coffee papers, though. I was out of the coffee. I still have some colored ones. What is the one to measure by? I don't think I have any coffee ones left, though. I got mint green, yellows, and pinks. And I think one of these, nope, I don't even have purples left. Oh, just all that pink paper that I don't use because I don't do pink. Get a couple blue, a couple orange. I really miss this orange paper. I'm gonna have to find a way to remake this since the product I made it with disappeared off the shelves. Because I really like that orange paper. Reminds me of sherbet. And the mint paper too is pretty. But I needed coffee paper today. Some of it get grungier than others. I don't know why. It's not like I did them any different. Than the other. Smells good though. Oh, smells delicious. Tonight I'm just cutting them down, getting ready for my next project. See what I get done tonight. Will probably be cut again. But for right now, this is all I'm doing. I come on late tonight. It sucks not having no water pressure. I get a dribble. I did get enough ran out to do dishes though. It was a little trickle, but I did it. So I don't have enough power to use my dishwasher. So I did them by hand because I don't know how long. We get a phone call from the city. The department said that they don't know how long this is going to be fixed. So I didn't want to run out of dishes. I'm going to have to go back to the Girl Scout way. This is when I wish I had a rain barrel outside. Catch all natural water. If this is crinkling too loud in anybody's ears, just let me know. If I don't mean to crinkle loud. Okay. What to do with these little papers. I don't know if anybody would know what to do with the little scraps on these or not. Where has Tina been? I have not seen Tina A. I think she's hiding. Whoever's in here, you can say hi. I don't bite. I had 5 people watching and now 3 and nobody's saying nothing. Look at that. I love the edges. Oh, where is that Tina A girl? That's what I said. Where's she been hiding? I haven't seen you in ages, woman. You been feeling okay? You seen Amy around? I haven't seen Amy around. I left her a message on her video. Hey, Frances. How are you? I think I'm going to have my next sale. Oh, tell me about it. Here, it's just so hot and humid. Oh, we have no water. We have a water break right now. I have a trickle. My husband has not had a bath for 2 days, and he works in a mill. He is so going to stink tonight. I told him, I said, don't they have showers where you work? I would at least take extra clothes. And he said, I don't know. I don't think they do. So I'm going to have to figure out a way for him to take at least a sitz bath tonight. Even if I can trickle out a pan enough to boil it and get him some water in the tub, because that's just awful, working in a mill all day sweating and you can't take a shower. It took me half an hour to fill up my little dish pan just to make sure we had dishes, because there's not enough pressure to run the dishwasher. So I did some by hand. It didn't get real hot, but I just ran the straight hot and it got warm enough, you know. And of course we have our wonderful Dawn. We have a water line break. And we get a call from the city. Well, we're really a town, but they call it the city water department. We don't live in a city. We live in a town. But they called and said that we're under a boil order and they have no clue when this will be fixed. Wherever the water break is, people lost pressure or they have no water at all. And we happen to be the ones that lost pressure. So now we wait. They'll call us and tell us. But yeah, you got to go back to the old-fashioned way for a little bit. Thank God for Girl Scouts. And from watching what my grandmother and everybody had to go through when this stuff happened. One night, it got so bad that we didn't want to be without water completely, you know, just for certain things. I literally have a puddle that shows up in my yard. We couldn't flush the toilet. So there was a puddle that created on, because we have one flat piece on our ground that needs built up. And we haven't done it yet. I was taking buckets outside in my yard in the middle of the rain and bringing it in the house until I could get enough to flush the toilet. You learn to survive. We have a stream right down the road from us too. So if I need it that bad, I'll do it the old-fashioned way and make trips. That's just like right before we know, you know, if we ever get warnings for stuff, we have a drum that we put water in if need be. Because really, technically, I mean, even if you can't take a bath right away, I can use as long as you have a little bit of bleach, you can disinfect any water as far as like washing your dishes and that kind of stuff. Oh, I learned all these little neat tricks when I was growing up, which pays off. That's just like one of my friends. She used to go to the Indian reservation, the one I was talking about one night that I got to meet from Yahoo before she passed away. Rita, she was something. She said she was down in Florida living, when I went to see her. She moved to Mississippi later, but because that's where she passed away, was in Mississippi. But she said that it was crazy because the electric went out on the block down there. She says these kids have no idea how to take care of themselves. She said every parent needs to take their kids like on an old-fashioned camping trip and teach them some things like, what you would learn in 4-H. She said they were freaking out because they had no way to survive. And because she was on the, raised regularly and on the Indian reservation, because they would go back, they had to teach them how to survive. It was crazy. And then when I was buying this, I have this book. I would show it, but it's got some nude pictures drawn in it. God knows why, but it does. It came from an estate sale. And I started reading the beginning of the book because it was like a hunting book. I'm not a hunting, but a camping book when you open it up. And here what it is it was pretty much a husband and wife that decided to go out and live nature the old-fashioned way just to see what they could learn to survive. And it was pretty darn amazing. This book's got some really interesting information in it because they took and dug a hole into the ground and filled it with really, really cold water. And they found a couple streams near where they were staying. And that's how they kept food cold. I was really impressed with some of the tips I learned from that book because I think everybody should have to go through at least experiences with that stuff to learn how to survive when stuff happens. And it was really interesting how they even made a homemade toilet. It was so funny. They dug a little hole in the ground and then they had a stick that held toilet paper. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of cheating because if you're out in nature, you don't have toilet paper. I guess you would use leaves and pray to God that they're not poison. But I mean, it is interesting though, watching how people rough it. And then I found this book. It was a do-it-yourself handyman set of books, which I kept these books. And they had this thing rigged up when you go camping of how to use natural rainwater to take showers. And it was like so cool looking. I didn't see all the details, but I remember he used wood. And then they had this flat piece of bark coming out, which it would catch the water somehow. And then it would drip down into like, I don't know how they got the water from the ground up, but it was really cool looking at this guy's setup because they caught the rain in a barrel and turned it into a shower. I don't know. I think things like that are really cool to see how people rig up stuff. I remember some things in Girl Scouts, like one of my favorite things that I had fun doing. Of course, we had matches to do it, but we took a Maxwell House coffee can, which is kind of really sad that it's now in plastic and not cans, because you could take a can and right where the opening is of the can, the mouth part of it, you cut domes on each side and you could flip it upside down. You build a fire underneath of it and then put it over so that the domes are so that the smoke and stuff can vent. And we cooked pancakes on the bottom of the pan, like the coffee can. It was so cool to do that. And I remember Girl Scouts, we did that back of some lady's yard. That, if you find a can out in the middle of nowhere, you take and you wash it or whatever, and then you build a fire. The only thing I couldn't do was the flint fire. I remember trying to rub those um, pieces of wood together, and I could never get a fire to start. I was never able to do that. But now they even have, I guess, in the military, I was looking up something one day and I come across waterproof matches. I thought that was pretty interesting. That even if they get wet, you can still use them. But it still would be nice to know how to start a fire with the wood. I think it'd be cool. Very interesting stuff. Bathing in streams would sure wake you up in the morning. That's for sure, Francis. Especially the water around here. It's cold. Very, very cold. See, this coffee paper is even cool because it's a little grungier. I think I'll cut this one from the bottom because I like the top part of it better. Does anybody know what to do with the leftover pieces of coffee pages you cut off? I don't have a clue. I end up with all these little pieces. I don't know what to do with them. Millie probably would know. That woman has an answer for everything. I don't know what you do with them. So, Tina, have you been feeling okay? You never did answer me. I know you wasn't feeling too good that one day I was talking to you. You feeling better? Oh, I don't know. As long as it's not lightning. There was one time we were without water. I couldn't stand it anymore, not having a bath. I went right out in the rain and just started washing myself. I don't care. As long as nobody's peeking, I'm good. Use them. Oh, I never thought about that. Good answer. I never thought about putting them in collages. For some reason, I always overlook that because I always think they got to have words on them. Because I know, like, when I'm collaging with regular paper, I always tear it to the words because I don't like the bare part showing and like certain things when I'm just working with words. But I never thought about doing that separate. There's an idea. I still got a few more to bake and then I'm done. I just wanted to get a bunch ready. I'm cutting them down to about a size I think I'll use. So is anybody working on anything fun? I finished my Holly Hobby Journal. I did a video on it. It's now posted in my Etsy store. And now I'm going to work on another journal. This one's going to be different. Then I was in the middle of working on another journal that was supposed to be custom made, and the person backed out of it. So now I've got to figure out how to finish that one. I'm going to finish it. I'll be right back. I'll just put it in my Etsy store when I'm done. Okay, I'm back. I think. Oh, nobody's working on anything? Let me can of Sprite. Excuse me, I was thirsty. I gotta remember to leave my hubby a message before he gets home too. At least I'll have these done tonight and ready to go. Tina, you should finish one of your journals. What are you up to, woman? You see any good sales lately? I think you do good ones. And two, I think when you take your time on one, it even turns out even better. I've seen even people comment in some Facebook groups too that they don't know how people can complete them so fast. This one lady's like, it takes me 3 months to do one. And I'm like, I can relate, especially when I can't work on mine like all day for so many hours. I work on it and then I have to put it aside. Well, look at you go, Francis. I've done multiples like that at once too, but because I would get like, you know, I don't know. It's kind of nice to switch back and forth if you get tired of looking at one. But when I did my Holly Hobby one, I just decided just to work on it a little bit at a time until I got it done. It took me a little while, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I just think it's really hard to find buyers. Because I know in my Etsy store, it's like, I looked up, you know, signed out and went to look through the pages of handmade journals. It took me 50 pages to get to one of my journals. I don't know. Because I have the free Etsy. All I have to do is pay the taxes or whatever, but I don't pay for the site. Maybe once you pay for it, you get more privileges or something. Like they boost you. Not sure. But I need to finish the faith journal. I really love what I did with that faith journal. It will be my first one. And so it'll be exciting to see what it looks like when it's finished. Because I'm going to continue working on it. I hope this doesn't sound too crinkly in you guys' ears. I don't mind crinkly paper, the sound of it. Then I went into another live stream to visit. That person made me moderator too. So I've got a bunch of streams I moderate for. It's just really hard when they go live at the same time. I can't watch 2 sets of people at the same time. I tried that back in chat. When I was in Yahoo one time, I was in 2 different clients and I went into 2 different chat rooms. Oh my gosh, my head was buzzing. I don't know how people do it. why that baked in there like that. See how that paper turned out? I added like a different spice into making it smell good, and it like made brown dots on the paper. It didn't actually bake. That's interesting. Very interesting. I don't know how else to do it, Francis. When I started doing baking, I've just always baked. Is there another way you can do it? Well, hey, Tosh. How are you, Missy? How's your goals going? I need to catch up with people's channels. I got to go through doctor stuff. I'm going to be indisposed July 10th and 11th. Got some issues going on. Aw, Tammy time. That's funny. No, Tosh time belongs to Tosh. Is your name Tosh, or is it Natasha? Or is that just a handle? Because I like the name Tosh. It's cute. I didn't know if it was short for Natasha or just Tosh. I'm new to journaling too. Just Tosh? Well, I like Tosh. Just Tosh. Cool. You're not supposed to be texting while you're driving, woman. You gotta pay attention to the road. I know my daughter does that all the time. She will text and drive, and I keep shaking my head at her. She makes me nervous. I said, stop that. And then when my husband, he speaks into his phone, it looks like a bunch of riddles. If you would see some of the things that he says and spell check, it's hysterical, Tosh. My husband will say something, he'll be blah, 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 and I'm like, Michael, I have no clue what you're saying. You're talking in riddles again. God only knows how much trouble people get into because of that speaking into the phone and it changing your words. Oh, could you imagine some of the conversations that comes up? I would love it if somebody would record them and make a YouTube video. Now that would be a riot. I got your mug sitting right down into my store. It sits right up on my pile of books that I have in my store. And it's funny when people come in, they're like, who's that? I go, that's Tosh. You see what she says? Keep pushing. And whenever I go to do my videos in my store, just so you know, and I'm doing my book of the day, you're holding my phone. I put my phone right against your mug, and it holds my phone up while I'm doing my videos because it's my encouragement. Yep. She is a very great person to watch, ladies. She's very encouraging. Oh my goodness. I love going to her live streams. I'm telling you. I was telling him about when I pouted with my store with all the stuff I had to do online, and watching Tosh and her saying keep pushing drew me back into what I was doing. But I pouted for 3 months. I should have got a candy pacifier. I was in self-pity for 3 months because I couldn't get no help. And every time I Googled, it kept giving me the runaround. It was awful. But I got past it because Tosh kept telling me to keep pushing. Woman, I never see you crazy. You are too much of a riot. You're so awesome. And I cannot watch YouTube mukbangs on the 10th and 11th. You know, I got to do this diet starting the 8th. And I have to fall at the 8th and the 9th. Or no, the 7th and the 8th. The 9th, I have to go to Pure Liquids. And then I have to have something done on the 10th. It's like a type of I have to go through a colonoscopy. And it's like, and they're going to go down my throat and then up the other end, which is always lovely. And there's no way I could watch mukbang. If I watched mukbang and I would die. Especially like Snoopy eats. Oh my God, that boy can eat. I don't know how he does it. I've seen a couple of his videos and I'm like, holy moly, he makes me hungry at like 3 a.m. in the morning. Oh, it's awful. But when you know you got to do it, you got to do it. You know, I hate that when I got to do that for blood work. Oh, he is. I've never seen a guy put away food like that Mia does. And he don't gain a pound. I hate people like that. He's got that metabolism. What's he like, 7 foot tall? He looks tall. Oh, thanks, Tosh. I don't look forward to it at all. I do not look forward to it. But I gotta get it done. My hubby's he put the time in today so he could drive me home and stuff, so. But she said it's fast, though. I mean, his nurse said that the prepping is probably the hardest part. She says, but you come in and you're out. Thank you. I need it. I definitely need it. I've been so tired and going through some issues that's just like, I just hope whatever it is, it's fixable. Aw, Francis, that's sweet. Thanks, Francis. Oh, thanks, Tosh. So I'm playing with coffee dyed paper, Tosh. I baked paper tonight for dinner. This is coffee dyed paper with vanilla. It smells so good. And I added some other herbs in it just to test it out, but some of it looked like it didn't bake. I see little dots, but that's okay. It still smells good. Oh, it smells delicious. Oh, you know, it's funny. The first time I baked coffee paper, my hubby come home and he says, what cookies did you cook me? I said, keep dreaming, dude. If you want to eat paper cookies, there you go. It was paper. And it made my whole house smell because of the vanilla. He thought I was baking. I love to bake, don't get me wrong. Crafting is fun, but I do love to cook. I find it very relaxing to cook. I love throwing together stuff. Like here one week we get hit with an extra medical bill. I hate when that happens because you're not prepared. He had to fight because they turned us into the collection agency, but it was covered 100%. It's just for some reason these insurance companies just don't want to give it up. So here we're down to hardly nothing in the refrigerator. Okay. So he's sitting there, he's going, oh, I'm so starving. I said, Michael, I am a whiz at whipping up stuff. I will go through your cabinets and I will find something. So we had this package of onions and peppers and stuff. It was just frozen and it was already together. We bought it that way because we wanted to try it out. I had eggs. I had a little bit of milk. So what do you think I whipped up? I threw together some really nice juicy omelets. And I think we had like 2 pieces of ham left of lunch meat, threw them in there too, put some cheese in there. So I said, see, you can find it. You just got to look around your house. And then one night, we were down to like waffles. I had enough stuff to make one batch of waffles. And see, you find this stuff. I told him, I said, I'm telling you, God provides in the least places you suspect. You just got to look in your fridge and in your cabinet, and you can whip up anything if you put your mind to it. Heck, I remember even making pizzas out of English muffins when my kids were little. Just put a little bit of sauce on that, throw a little bit of pepperoni and cheese, and there you go. As long as you've got that in your house. Yep. I got used to doing that too. My daughters used to tell me I should have made a poor mom's cookbook. I said I should have. And I started doing a little bit of that online. I started doing recipes like that for a little while, and I got away from it, and I wished I would have, but my books kind of took over because I try not to overdo my videos, because a couple times I got behind and I was doing like 3 videos a day. That's really not good on YouTube. I think when people get up to a certain point and they only upload 2 or 3 times a week, I think it's better. I think trying to do it every day, it's hard. So, if I do a cooking video, then I can't do a book of the day. Like, I try to just limit myself to 1 video a day because I don't want to get people, sick of thinking I'm spamming. I mean, that's just how I feel. So I do try to keep it that way. And sometimes I even try to take the weekends off, because if you would see how many videos right now I have pre-recorded, it's awful. I got tons of them pre-recorded. So even when I'm not here, like when I go through what I got to go through, I'm still going to have a video that day. I got a whole bunch of them lined up, and still more to line up, especially mail. Oh man, I'm like getting slammed with mail. I love it though. But I have to stop shopping so much too. Well, hey, Sprinkles. There's Patricia. Me and that girl grew fast. Her channel just flew up in numbers. It's funny when you're at the same level with someone and then they fly. It's like, wow. I'll tell you another person that's doing really well too, and I'm so proud of her, is Junie. She I started out actually a year before her, and she's already caught up to me. But you know what? She's a great artist. She doesn't do just junk journals. She's very, very good in the mental health field. Junie Desiree. I think her name is pronounced Uni, but it's got a J on the front. She's Australian. All toss, she's amazing. But I don't care if people pass me up. I just think it's wild when they start flying. You know what I mean? It's like, woo. But I knew she would go far. I could tell from the first video I watched of hers. When I started to get to know her, I knew she was going to go far. She also blogs. She creates junk journals. I probably got 5 of them off of her I bought. She's so great with people. I mean, she takes the time and she does tutorials on her channel. And just to see her grow and how much she's grown since her first journal, it's amazing. And she painted. She took and had like music paper, and she paints and she draws, and she made calendars out of some of her art. She's very talented. And I got some of her stuff in the back room. Excuse me. She kept telling me, you supported me so much at the beginning because I believe in her. She's one of those people you just know, and she's got such a kind heart. She's doing very, very well. And I can't wait to see where all she goes. She does a fundraiser for Beyond Blue. She had a Beyond Blue fundraiser when she started her Etsy store, and I got a whole bunch of stuff. Like, everybody from around the world and all these different countries sent her a bunch of stuff. She turned them into kits and sold them and raised all that money for Beyond Blue, which is I think it's something to do with mental health over in Australia. And she raised a good bit of money too. And then when I was doing my fundraiser for the kids, for the backpack program, doing it again this year, she donated $50. That was really, really nice through PayPal from Australia, from another country, let me tell you. Everybody that donated was so amazing. I love it. Love, love, love it. And she started a Patreon. She's got 4 people in her Patreon already. She's going to go far. I've always told her that, though, since she started. I said, you will go far. She was so excited talking about her Patreon the other day, and she's like, on her video, she says, I never thought I would get to this point. I mean, you could just hear it in her. Like, she never thought she would grow like that. I said, Jeannie, I knew you were going to get there. To certain people, you just know. But I love her journals. She created me a custom faith journal too. But if you ever go, let me see if I can. I think this is how you spell her last name. I mean, her middle name. Jeannie Desiree. That's her channel. You guys get a chance, you got to go check her out. Watch a couple of her videos. She's very, very cute. She got a little black kitten because I told her the story of my cats. I had 2 female black kittens I just loved to pieces that passed away, and I really miss Hope. She was my 22-year-old, and she just thought they were so cute when I was talking about it. She got herself a little black male kitten, and he is so ornery. Oh my goodness. She named him Keanu after Keanu Reeves, and she'll be sitting there doing her journals, and all of a sudden you'll see this fuzzy cat jump on the table. It's so funny. He's always trying to get in her videos. He thinks he's the star. Cutest little kitten you ever seen. And she'll be flipping the journal and he's attacking her hands. It is hysterical. But I just love her little cat. And I said, that makes me feel good that you went out and you mocked my little kitties, because I tell you, I miss them. I really miss Heather and Hope. They were good cats. I'll be right back. My oven timer went off. Give me a sec. happy puppy? Oh, my little puppy. She eats her little no more. Sorry, I'm back. Oh, I forgot my paper. Hold on. Where's my puppy? Little Rose. All right. So here's the rest of my baked paper that I just took out of the oven. I'm done baking paper. Who else left? Sorry it took me so long. I had to let my dog in. And I grabbed me some Cheez-Its. I'm gonna munch. I'm hungry. At least get a few in. So for ages, this is how it turns out when it's baked. Excuse me. If you excuse me, I don't want to burp. You guys' ears are drinking Sprite. On this particular piece of paper, what I did was I leave it laid down like this. If you'll notice, this looks different than this one. Even though that broke a little bit. That's one thing you got to worry about when you're baking is your paper ripping. Sometimes that happens. So what I did different with these two is I laid them both flat on a cookie sheet. My cookie sheets are only big enough to hold 2 sheets at a time. So what I did with this is just, I have an electric skillet and I made coffee that was about and it can be a cheap brand. It doesn't have to be a name brand. About a half of a filter almost filled with coffee grounds, because the darker, the better your paper is going to turn out. So this here laid flat, and you can see that this side was up on the cookie sheet and all the coffee laid right here. You can tell that that happened because you can see the outline of the coffee. So what I did with this one was a little different. I laid it flat on the cookie sheet right beside this one. But on this one, I had gloves on. I used surgical gloves, and I put my white gloves on and dipped my fingers into the coffee pan right next to, because I keep it right beside the stove top. Hey, Jacqueline. And then I take my fingers and do this wet with coffee. And that's why this turned out looking a little bit different, because I flattened it a little more and took my fingers over it. There's probably different things a person can do if you've got the time. I would think, personally, this is my thought process, common sense wise, that if a person would decide to do this for 15 minutes and say like 5 minutes after your paper's baked, when you pull it out of the oven, the cookie sheets are hot, but the paper's not, because you can pick it up with your fingers. But I would think that if you had a little bit of coffee in a spray bottle, like you do inks, that if you laid down, say like, those, you can get those plastic, I don't know what you want to call them. I know you know what I'm talking about, stencils. And you probably could say, you know, take a stencil and lay it, as long as it's not a sticky stencil, because the ones from the Dollar Tree, I think, are sticky on one side and you might not want it to stay in place. I wouldn't get one that sticks on one side personally, but I would have a stencil laying on this, and you probably could spray over it to get shapes and then stick it back in for the last 10 minutes, or bake it for 10 minutes. 5 minutes might not be long enough. I probably would bake it for 10. I haven't tried this yet, but I need to. And then make a stencil to lay over top, and then spray it, and then stick it back in the oven maybe for the last 5 minutes and see what happens. I haven't played enough with them yet. So how are you doing, Jacqueline? And another thing too is, I think I'm going to throw in some last chance books on my next live sale and put them up for like $1. And then just, I think I'm going to auction. And then whatever anybody wants to pay for them from $1 up, they can, because there's some books that I have got to donate or move. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet because I'm running out of room. I got so many books. It's awful. Just overwhelmed with books, Jacqueline. Because right now my store is a maze, because first, I have a back garage. I don't have enough storage space is what my problem is. And my back garage got a roof leak in it, so we fixed it. Well, then it started again because we had a windstorm and some of the shingles blew off, but at least we have one little place we can put a tub for the drip. Well, then I tried to get the books out of there as soon as possible because I didn't want them to get mold. And I actually lost some books. I don't know if they came with mold already or if they got mold from being back there, because sometimes, you know, people, you know, you never know where some of the books are coming from. If it's on the book jacket and like a powder on the cover, they can be saved. The books can, the jackets can't though. But if it's in the pages, there's nothing you can do about it. Once it's in the pages, the book's destroyed. So I saved a bunch and I lost some, but you'll have that. So I got everything in the middle of my store now, where you actually walk into my store, and I have no room, but I've got them in a drier place because I had to salvage what I could. But it's like a maze when you walk in my store because it's like, without that back garage, because I could probably lay about 8 skids in it, 9 skids, if not more. That's where my storage was. And now that it's all to the center, it takes up half of my bathroom in my store, half of the other small back room I have where my actual books are stored. And because I have my own little library, and it's overwhelming. I keep telling people when they walk through my door, don't buy my books because they're everywhere. So I just need to move some. So I think I'm going to do some bundle sales. It's not going to be just for crafters next time. I'm going to have it set up for crafters and readers, because I think I'm going to bundle. If you know anybody that likes romance books, or, you know, I think I'm going to do like, it'll be 10 for $2. There'll be 20 cents a piece. So I'm going to bundle some, and if nobody's interested, then they can just pass. Because like I have a bunch of Harlequin Presents, Harlequin Super Romances, just the regular thick. I don't know who all reads on here. I'm not really sure, but I know I had readers show up in one of my sales one time, and I felt bad because it was really for crafters. But I think I'm going to add some for readers too, so that way if they're interested, they could just email me later if they don't show up in the stream. But I'm going to put that in the title so that the readers know they're included, and do it that way. So what do you guys think? Think that's good? I think it's interesting. But I do have one lady that I do sell to through my Etsy store. Um, she lives a little ways from me, but not enough not to drive. It's just that she doesn't have time because her life's busy. She loves the Harlequin intrigues. So she pretty much wiped out what I had. So far, I've done 2 orders for her, and I have a third one in the process I'm working on as they come in. So there are some people that still like the Harlequins. I know. I hear you. I flatten everything as much as possible. But you know, it just depends, and there's going to be a variety. I'm just trying to get together what I want to do, and I'm going to have it in July. And eventually, once I get some books sorted, I will even have particular authors, because I know that there's some Nora Roberts readers out there and stuff like that. And I am going to get some of their books together. It's just right now they're just kind of scattered. I need to make room to sort a little better. So that's like my goal. And if they don't sell, well, they don't sell. I mean, some of them I am going to have to donate. I'm not going to be able to get around it. But that's okay too, because there is a really, really nice place I found local that doesn't throw books away like the Salvation Army does. And they're not as pricey as what the Goodwill is. But they have, because I do like shopping at both those places too, but I'm just not fond. I mean, if they're recycling them, it's one thing. I just don't want to see any books end up in the landfill. And this one place that I go to, I'm going to be going back and asking them if they take books away, do they recycle? Because if they do recycle, then they're going to have the choice of getting them first. Because I'm telling you, they have really good stuff down there. I've been collecting vintage cards. It's a St. Vincent's Church. And they have a thrift store under, you know, that they do stuff for. And it's a lot cheaper than going to an antique store. I can tell you that much. The antique stores are expensive here. This one lady, I went to this one antique store. And I mean, I'm not saying they're not all bad, because they did have some deals that I got on some really nice books. And I know for a fact they would cost a lot more from a different antique place. But see, this particular antique place, they're more about furniture than paper. So it depends on what you're looking at there. If they get a hold of vintage postcards, they're charging $8 per card. I kid you not. I looked at this woman like she was crazy. Because you definitely can get them cheaper than $8. And there's another dealer I went to that was even closer to me. They charge $8 per card. $6, I mean. One charges $6, one charges $8 for the ones that's post-dated and written on like in the 1918 or whatever. And I just think that's awful. I thought $1 a card was appropriate. I thought that was expensive. But then again, I hadn't really looked for antique postcards. But I think $6 and $8 is just a little bit much for a used card. I mean, that's a lot of money. Especially when you figure we're selling entire books for $2, $3, and you're paying that much for one card. That's a lot of money. I don't know. But then I went into the basement and I found these 2 really nice vintage books. And she sold them to me for $2 a piece. So I can't complain on that deal. Because they definitely are worth more than that. So I think they just want to get rid of books, because a lot of people do. But when it comes to other stuff, no. But I did ask her that if she come into any cash books or ledgers, if she would let me know, because as far as I can tell around here, there is none. But they just don't have them. If they do, they're keeping them. Now, the antique mall that's close to me, they've only had 2 come through their store, and the mall itself claimed them. Because I asked one of the ladies behind the counter, I said, "Do you ever see ledgers or cash books?" And she says, "Here they are." They were underneath there. She pulled them out from underneath the counter where she was waiting on people. I go, "Oh, I see where they're going." So they're actually doing their bookkeeping in them. I said, "Well, that's kind of smart though, because they got different vendors." But the St. Vincent's Church, where they do theirs, they don't have cash books and ledgers, but they had beautiful cards. I found some really pretty plain cards. It's just that one time when I did a sale here, I tried to sell a package of cards and nobody seemed interested. So I don't know if I had the price too high or if people just weren't buying cards. Because I do like the idea of sharing cards. I think they're pretty, and but then sometimes if you sell them by the pack, people want the whole entire pack and they don't want the mixed cards because maybe they want more. I know personally when I do pocket letters, I mean, you guys can give me feedback on this. If you prefer to have the whole decks or if you like to have a couple cards or not, because when I do a pocket letter, I use 9 cards. So 2 wouldn't be suitable to me. I would probably buy them for my journals. But as far as me doing pocket letters, I like owning the whole deck. So, I don't know. I haven't had any luck with selling them separate. So maybe people like having the whole decks. I don't know. But you guys can give me feedback on that because I'm not sure. So there's the question of the day. When you buy cards, do you prefer to have the deck or do you prefer to have the packs? Good night, Francis. I'll be right back. I got to unload my last load of papers. Oh, how cool is that? Wow. I got a little bit of a different pattern that was a little unexpected. Well, hello. Oh, well, that's not good. Look how cool this turned out. I did this different. Look at the spots. Yeah, that's me too, Jacqueline. But sometimes I don't mind it if I see like a couple for. I guess it depends on what you're working on. If I see some that would go good in a journal I'm working on, I probably would buy them separate. I have my days too, Mr. Fulton, let me tell you. It's not always fun when you're sick. But look how that turned out. Do you see this paper, guys? I don't know what I did different. I had this sheet laying over this one. Maybe that's what the difference was. Oh, I know how that turned out that way. I had this laying like this. Hey, Julie. I had 3 sheets on this pan instead of 2. Look, this one turned out the same way. I had them laying like this to get them done faster. And when I took my fingerprints over top of them, they must have built little drops to make this on the back side where it covered. That's kind of cool. That was totally by accident, but you see what I'm talking about? I took my fingers and dipped it in the coffee on the gloves, and then I went like this over the paper, and it made indentions on the back of this paper that produced this on the paper below it. That's cool. I don't mind sharing my secrets. I'm still learning too. I'm still new to the junk journal world. But I really like how that took. That is so cool. The only arts that I've done that I can remember is when we were in school. I can't remember if it was Girl Scouts I did this or if it was a science project. It was years ago. But I remember taking a shoebox and we had to make an aquarium. And I took a shoebox. I think you could use an aquarium if you wanted to, but I did mine with the shoebox because I thought it was cool. And I cut out fish, pictures that I drew on construction paper. And I took and put little holes in the top of the fish, and then I tied them with yarn. And I had a backdrop inside of the shoebox. I think it was like green construction paper, and I put like plants and stuff that I cut out of paper. And then on the bottom of the shoebox, because I had it tilted sideways because I wanted to make it look like an aquarium view, I put glue and sprinkled sand like you would glitter. And so that was the bottom of the aquarium. And then I had little fish dangling, hanging from the roof of, well, the side of the box, which would be the roof turned sideways. And, oh, thank you, Julie. And I had fish hanging inside the box. And I made an aquarium that way. And we did embroidery. I remember doing embroidery with the wooden hoops. I couldn't tell you what they're called. And we did crochet. We had to earn badges. So in the back of our Girl Scout book, it told you what you had to do to accomplish a certain badge. So those were like the badges, and then sell cookies, you earned a badge. It was like a bunch of different things you could do. It was really, really interesting. Some of the stuff I learned in Girl Scouts. But some of it I wished I'd have stuck with and kept going, because I probably would have learned more. But I've never owned a sewing machine. I do own an iron. I do iron clothes. But I've never played with a sewing machine. I think in home ec maybe for a short period. My mom had one. But whenever I had like projects to do, like one year we made a pillow, I cut out the letters out of felt. And then I picked out the material, which was green and gold. That was my high school colors. And I remember stuffing, my mom sewed the inside of the pillow with her sewing machine, and then I stuffed it with cotton. We made it together, but she never did teach me how to use the sewing machine. She had one of those brown tables that you flip and the sewing machine was on the other side where you could hide it, and it had a drawer on each side. I think my oldest daughter has it, but the sewing machine doesn't work anymore. It's an antique for sure. It's old. And my grandmother, she had a playing piano. I sewed by hand, but I never had a sewing machine. She had a player piano in her house, and she had an old clock radio. And I remember when she passed away, They asked me if I wanted the clock radio thing, but I said no because I really didn't have room to put it. But my brother took the old piano player, the piano, and what he did with it was amazing. He took it to a guy who repurposed furniture. And as they were sanding it down, he had the piano player, the piano itself, turn into a gun cabinet. And it was really cool because as they were taking layers of the varnish off, when they were sanding it down, two men appeared at the top of it with handlebar looking mustaches. And there was a year on it, but I can't remember what it was, but it's an antique. But it was really cool that none of us knew that picture was there until it was sanded down because it looked like it was covered over. I told my brother, I said, probably be worth money someday. And then my other grandmother, she played the piano. She played piano in the church for years. And she was the one who, she knitted, she crocheted. She was raised on a farm. And she made doilies. Oh, she was so good at all that stuff. But she never taught any of us any of that stuff. Maybe she didn't think we'd be interested. I don't know. But my sister turned out to be the knitter. She liked knitting with the knitting needles. I never learned how to knit, but I did learn how to crochet a little bit. But I wished I would have learned how to make her doilies. And one of these days when I find her handkerchief she lent me, I'm going to have to bring it up and show everybody because I don't know what I did with it. It might be in my hood chest downstairs, but it's a white cloth where you could see through it almost, hanky. And she did the trim. It's like tattered looking around the edges in blue. So it's blue and white. It's a really cute hanky. Oh, nice. See me, I can sew by hand. Like I would do socks and buttons and, you know, on the seam and stuff like that. My mom, I remember her having these real dark blue jean patches that she used to fix my dad's jeans with at work. I remember her using those dark patches, but it was so long ago. Years and years ago. But she used to sew a lot. My mom did. But I never owned a sewing machine. And to do everything by hand, it's really hard. You know, it takes time. My journal that I sold, Francis got it. It was my Valentine's journal. I sewed in that by hand. I had pockets done in that one that I sewed the paper together. I mean, if I had the time, like if I didn't have my book job, I probably would do more. But it's just really hard when I'm consumed with too many other things. Maybe one day I'll go as a full-fledged crafter. I don't know. But right now, I don't want to. I would miss my bookstore too much. I love my bookstore. I worked hard to get it started. And we're in year number 6. It might not pay all the bills, but I enjoy it. I love it. I didn't love it so much. Books have always been a passion of mine. I never dreamed I'd be building them. That I'd be making junk journals out of them or doing them, you know, repurposing from scratch. I never even heard of junk journals until I came to YouTube. But books were always my passion as long as I could remember. I lived in the library as a kid. Yes, I was that nerd. I loved the libraries. In school, the local library. I spent so much time in libraries, it was not even funny. I tease my husband all the time, Julie. I said, I should have married a nerd, but instead, he was the football player jock. How we even ended up together is beyond me, because he's definitely not somebody I would have picked for myself. Sorry, Mike, if you're listening, but no, he knows the story. Actually, one of my friends pushed us together. Because seriously, I would have never dated somebody like him. It's not that I find that jocks are all bad people, because they're not. It's just that some of them turn out to be really conceited, if you know what I mean. They can't get past the football stories and grow up and leave high school behind. And they just were not my type of guy. My type of guy was somebody who was intellectual, somebody that likes to read, somebody who, totally not my husband. He hates to read. He can't stand it. He's like, even when we put stuff together for the kids for Christmas, he's like, I just want the pictures. I'm like, oh my goodness. You should see us together at Christmas time putting kids' toys together. I remember this one year. Yes, I'm going to tell stories. My daughter had this Mickey Mouse. Hey, Alicia. She had this Mickey Mouse desk. This is so funny. I'm telling stories, Alicia. You ready for a husband story? And it was one that you sat in a chair sideways. You remember the old school desks? And then it had a chalkboard in front of you. And we had to put that together. The chair had to go with the chalkboard. And it was so hysterical because he throws the directions aside and he's like, these, not so nice words, China directions. And I said, Michael, look, get down at the bottom on the directions said made in the USA. Julie, I rolled. I wish I could have recorded it. It was so freaking hysterical. And he just looked at me, huffed and puffed, and walked out the door. Those are the days. But I got the biggest kick out of that. Like, not in China, honey, not today. Like Michelle says, not today. But oh my goodness, I rolled. And then you should have seen us trying to put a bookshelf together. Oh, that was another story. I kept trying to tell him he needed to line up the shelves. I mean, it's common sense. But men are. You got to have it laying down on the back, and you have to have the shelves lined up before you put the sides together. You can't put the shelves in it after it's complete, not this particular kind. So I said, you have to have this here lined up. You have to have your shelves put up like here and here and here. Then you put this side on. He wouldn't listen. He put the whole together. He did this on a stereo case. Remember the stereos that held your albums? He did the same thing to a bottom of a stereo before. Ended up having to take the whole thing apart because by the time he put everything like he had together, you couldn't get shelves in. I just laughed. Like, whatever. Do your thing. You don't listen. That's what happens when you have headstrong people. He tells me I'm stubborn. I'm like, I said, listen, when I'm passionate about something or I have a firm belief in something, you bet your butt I'll fight you over it. But if it's something I'm not sure about, I won't say nothing until I know for sure what I'm fighting for. I said, you think you know all the answers. What was it here recently? Oh, he used to tell my kids every time they asked about a repair. Oh, it cost $3,000. I'm like, Michael, you didn't even ask. You didn't even have a quote. Oh, I'm telling you, Lisa, they kill me. And he's like, I know what it costs. He knows everything. And I'm like, you have to ask. I said, there's a lot of times when you get your house repaired and things, like it doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to pay a person to get a free quote. They'll come and give you a free quote to let you know. And then you can go from there and decide what you want to do. He don't listen to me at all. It's like I have the most common sense, no doubt about it, in our marriage. And he's like, everything costs $3,000. And this one, it was $500. I'm like, where the heck do you get everything costs $3,000? I said, you kill me. It's because he doesn't want a stranger coming in and touching his stuff. He wants to be the man of the house and he wants to fix it all. But yet He won't do it, and he'll sit on it for 3 years because it costs $3,000. I love making fun of midnight. Maybe that's what she called Tuesdays. Oh, I know. Isn't it fun, Julie, when they do that? Mine does that to me too. Every time I try to point something, oh, you're just such Miss Perfect. I didn't say I was perfect, but at least I asked for quotes. I couldn't tell you what things cost. Just like if you need an exterminator, I would get a quote. I don't have no clue. Every year the economy changes. I don't have answers for that stuff. That's why I ask. But oh my gosh, everything to him. Everything. $3,000. He's stuck on that amount of money. I should tell him, well, hey, I wanted an allowance in $3,000. So I should tell him next time he says that. Oh, I know. It's funny. Picking on him is hysterical. Heck, if I had that kind of money, I'd have all kinds of crafts. Oh, shoot. Sometimes he sneaks and watches me from work. I hope he's watching now. Hey, Mike, I want an allowance. $3,000. $3,000 a month, dude. I'll be coming home. Up yours, woman. How dare you tell YouTube I'm paying you $3,000? Are you crazy? I can just hear him now. 31 years of marriage. Lord knows how we made it. People always ask me my biggest accomplishment. I tell them life. Life is my biggest accomplishment. Through all the ups and downs and all the hard times. Do you guys, any of you guys, this is so funny. Everybody I think heard of this but me. I have specific authors, not to change the subjects of certain books I like my True Crime Raider is thank you, Alicia. Is Anne Rule. So one day I picked up this book and I got so absorbed in it. And it was called The Outlander. And I had no clue The Outlander was turned into a show. And her name's Diane Gabaldon, I think. I can't remember how to pronounce her last name. But I've got 2 of her books so far. And I hadn't got to finish reading. And oh my goodness, I turned on Netflix. And there's 2 seasons of Outlander on there. And so you know what I did over the weekend? I purged. All I did was watch that show. And I am like so addicted to that show. Like right now I'm on season 2. I'm almost at the end. My husband watches it with me when he comes home from work. Because we get into certain seasons. But oh my goodness. The struggle. Them 2 went through. Oh, that's what I told him. Life. I said, look how bad it was back then. Even if it was a show, a lot of people did go through that stuff. Like, you know, I know that I had a relative who lost children to what's it called? Whooping cough and stuff like that. Like, I know this happened to people in my family back in the day. And it's like, how hard life had to have been, you know? It's just crazy. We have so many luxuries that people will just never know. Well, congratulations to you too. Oh, it's good, Alicia. If you have Netflix, it's wonderful. I'd never heard of it either, but I tell you what, the books are so absorbing. Oh, I love the books, and just a really good, that's a high recommendation for me. If you have Netflix, watch Outlanders. It is just so good. My husband sits there because he teases me sometimes. He had a crush on Meg Ryan. One time he used to tease me about her being his star girlfriend, and I said that's okay because the guy on Outlanders, I mean, he is cute. He's a good looking dude. I had a feeling they were going to end up together, the way he was with her and stuff. But oh my goodness, it was so awesome. They make such a cute couple. She's a very pretty lady too. They picked a really good actress to play her part. She's very pretty. And she's got that porcelain looking skin like back in that day, you know. Very, very beautiful lady. Yeah. I mean, look at us. I sit there. It's funny watching some of those emails. And you know, or when people type those things, and if you lived in this day, I remember a party line being on my grandmother's phone. Could you imagine? I told my husband, just for 1 month, no longer to torture people, but just for a month, there's two things I would like to see happen. I would love to see all men become pregnant and have a baby and do it natural. And I would love the internet and the mobile phones just to die. Just to see what people would do. Do you imagine what a massive catastrophe that would be? No YouTube and no mobile phone for a month. These kids would freak out. But I mean, like back in the day, we didn't even have two-way calling. I mean, when you called somebody, you got a busy signal if they were talking, and you had to wait for that busy signal to go away to be able to get in touch with someone. My husband says, you're mean, making all men have a baby. That's the only thing he got out of that. And I go, no. The men that thinks it's so easy to bear children and all you do is sit home and you're a stay-at-home mom and you don't work and blah, blah, blah. I want them to have a kid. Every single one of them that ran their mouth. I want to see them go through a pregnancy and have a child. That's my punishment to those men. And they can't have epidurals. They have to have them natural like I did. I know. Mine whines over a toe ache. Could you imagine 9 months being with a guy pregnant? Oh my goodness. We'd never hear the end of it. Especially when his famous, you know, recliner, it's not helping his discomfort. We can make some really good jokes. I can't wait till the men see this and I get bashed in the comment section. I'll never hear the end of this one. See, I gathered up all my little pieces and I found a really nice big paper clip, and clipped them. So that's out of the way. Oh, I know. I miss conversations like this. I think it's funny. I remember getting on my grandmother's phone and I would hear her neighbor at the time. Her neighbor was Mrs. Hornick. And I remember her giving out her grocery list. And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Oh, it's okay, honey, on the party line. And my grandmother had a black rotary phone. And I remember, oh, the newspapers my grandmother used to save and all her Valentine's. Boy, I wish I would have that stack now. We would have so much fun. Oh, that would be fun, Alicia. That would be a lot of fun. And where do you get one of those machines? I'm gonna hook my husband up. And she would get off, you know, then I would wait for like 10 minutes and I would go to pick that phone. She still talked. And she would be like, I'm like, I give up. But it was crazy on Party Line. Can you imagine how many people listened to other people's conversations and they didn't even know it? That is like spy stuff. That's gossip stuff. But it was I never listened. I hung up. But it was cool to have to share that Party Line. I just thought that was so funny. You're so funny. But and then I remember telephone booths. You know, I never did get to have my fantasy in that one, Julie. That was on my bucket list. And they're gone now. And it's like, really? If I would have known, I'd have made my bucket list happen when they were still up. But we still have one payphone that's local, but it's connected to the side of a fast food place. But I remember going into the booths and I used to get so mad because people would either rip out the phone books and the pages, and because they used to have one hanging. And I remember phones being disconnected. They would cut the phone part from the booth and then you couldn't use it. Oh man, you would have loved it, Alicia. But yeah, they took down all the telephone booths. We used to have the one at the end of our lane. I liked them too because could you imagine how cool that would be if they were still up? It's like, why didn't they just leave the booths up? Especially for people who were homeless. At least they would have had a place to go to get out of the rain. I mean, not being ignorant, but they were nice as far as you got no weather. If you needed to use the phone, you could go into a phone booth and shut the door and you were out of the rain. You know what I mean? Sometimes I wonder if they ever used them like that back then or not, but I used to love going to telephone booths. I would call my friends just to use one. I thought they were cool. Now you look around and they're all gone. They used to be like everywhere, like up on every corner. Julie. I don't know. I don't think I ever used a phone booth. I don't remember ever sneaking out to use one to call a boy. I don't remember. I do know a couple guys I had crushes on didn't use them to call me though. Because they didn't want their families to know either and they wanted to be sneaky. I just remember if we were out late at a school dance or something, they were like on the corner where you could call home and let you know if you were a little bit later, you could tell your parents to wait a half an hour to come and pick you up. It was like so cool. Weren't they like 35 cents at the end or something like that? Seems to me they were cheaper when they started though. Weren't they like a quarter or something like that? I know they were really cheap when they first came out and then they changed. And they went up some. And then if you talk to somebody long distance, you better have like a big pocket of change. Oh, that's funny, Alicia. Oh, that's right. They were dimes at first. Maybe I'm thinking of pop. Because I know we used to have a 35-cent pop machine too. We had this one local mom and pop store that when pop went up to I think 50 cents a can, they kept theirs 35 cents. Now they're what? Like $1.75 a bottle to $2 a bottle now. But we did because if you even took when they had sales and owned a pop machine, you could still get away with selling them for 35 cents and still make a profit depending on how you buy your pop, of course. But I was like, because sometimes they have them 10 for 10 or something like that. Like 10, 12 packs for 10. You can still make money. It kills me now that they're like $1.75 or $2 a piece. Now it's ridiculous. But yep, they were 10 cents. I remember 10 cents. I remember putting a dime in. I forget what they were when they quit though. I know they went higher. I remember getting the bottles and popping the tops off. And I had a Grady and uncle. They ran a grocery store that was really cool because you could walk in and it had that smell. It had wooden floors, they had a wooden counter. It was one of those old type stores, and they would have penny candy up on the shelf. They had the penny bazooka bubble gums with the little comics in them, and they had, I don't know, there was all kinds of candy. And then I remember I found out later they used to run moonshine in the molasses bottles. I had a moonshiner in my family. I thought that was funny. They said at one point when it was outlawed, they used to be just like the Dukes of Hazzard trying to outrun the cops. I was dying laughing. That was a great uncle of mine that did that. I go, I didn't know that. My grandma's sister's husband. He was rotten. I knew he owned a beer joint later, but I did not know that he ran moonshine before it was legal. That was hysterical. And in molasses bottles. Like, you guys are rotten. Look how cool this coffee dyed paper looks. To me, this is like scrumptious heaven. That is so awesome. That is my papers that I dyed today because I had a doctor's appointment. Yep. I hear you. Don't you love spell check? Grape was one of my favorites too. If you want me to, I can retract it. That's awful. I think I can retract it. How do you retract a message? No, you got to retract it. I think you can click behind your name and remove it. There you go. Poor Julie. That's terrible. That's what I said. That's what I was telling Tosh about earlier. My husband talks into the phone and he says certain things, and it comes to me as a riddle. God only knows half the time what he's talking about. I said, I wonder how many relationships broke up over that. The wrong things coming out. That sounds coolish. I was born in 67. I was 2 years before her. I love this paper. I love it. And it smells so good. Coffee and vanilla, and oh, it just smells scrumptious. Love it, love it, love it. I have to add something to this. I hope Danny watches this later. She sent this in her journal. This was in the video I did of the Care Bear journal. She put, "Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you love your journal as much as I loved creating it." Look how pretty she writes. "I sent you some goodies so you can play. Big hugs, Danny. I sent you a piece of my first snippet." Is that like not awesome? She sent me a piece of her first snippet. Oh, I'm so excited. I haven't yet. I'm yet to make a snippet roll. Well, hello. I'm glad you got to pop in, Hennigs. How are you doing? Oh, you're popping in and leaving. Well, thanks for coming. I know. I hate not having no water here. Oh, you poor girl. I believe it, Julie. They take out all the good words. They don't know our slang. Oh, I'm telling you, I remember those days. You know, I didn't get a computer until my youngest was 13. I can't even imagine having little ones with a computer. Oh no. I was too busy chasing them. I don't know what it had been like to have had computers when my kids were little, to be honest. I don't know how I would have juggled it. I don't think I would have. We were always so busy. We did have good vacations, though. That's one thing I miss about the kids living at home is that we never take any vacations anymore for some reason. When we do, my husband always wants to include the grandkids, which is not a bad idea. But I told him, I said, it'd be nice just to take a vacation with the two of us. We haven't been on a vacation with just the two of us in a very long time. And we never had a honeymoon either. He cheated me of a honeymoon. Ha! I want a honeymoon. I never got one, brat. What he told me, we paid for our apartment the month's rent. That's our honeymoon. I was like, really? That's just rude. That's why I said, Julie, I picked the wrong man. No. When we've had, I would say, a lot of the strength in our marriage was when hard times came, you know, like job losses and things like that. My husband never felt it beneath him to take on any job, where I have seen men not do that. Like if he had to wash dishes for a living to keep us going, he did what he had to do. And that's one thing I will always admire about him. But I do like to pick on him. I believe it. And you know, these kids that got in trouble with the computers when they first come out, I blame the school for that. I'm sorry, but I feel that if something new is coming into the school system, especially when it makes you worldly, sorry teachers if you get mad at this, but too bad. Um, I feel that before our kids are introduced to something that takes you out into the world where predators are, I think that they should have educated the parents before the kids got to use it. And they could have taught at least the parents some safety features and some things out there that protects computers, like, you know, parental controls and things like that. But I think it was wrong to just dump that into the school system and not teach the parents nothing about it. I had an issue with that big time. I made it my business to learn because I wanted to know where the heck my kids were going. I mean, it's just like calling from your friend's house and different things like that, because in the day and age we were raised, if you were in trouble in school, your parents knew it before you even got home. And I feel like a lot of that structure is gone, and I don't like it. I mean, yeah, I do believe that your kids should be at an age where they should be able to make some decisions on their own. But I believe to get there, they need their parents' guidance. And to me, that is one big thing I was really upset with on the computer stuff. My kids were teaching me too. They were showing me stuff about emails and different things like that. But then I ended up taking a class for it because it's like, especially when you started seeing all the bad things on the news. I walked into our local unemployment office and said, I want to maintenance a computer. Can you lead me to the direction to learn? And they happened to be running a class at that time period in the unemployment office. They had a class. What the heck was it called? It had an overall name, but they were teaching Microsoft levels to the advanced for people that wanted to go in secretary. They were teaching the A+ certification. They were teaching clear up to C++, Cisco, and like a few other things you could take. I took the A+. I was the only female in that class, but I took it. They set a computer in front of me. Fix it. And I'm looking at this teacher like, are you nuts? And I kept calling the tower a stack. And it was hysterical because that was my nickname all through my computer course. They called me Stacks the whole time. He says, I have never had anybody come in here and call the tower a stack. I said, well, it's stacked. It looks like a stack to me. That's what I called the tower. Oh my goodness, it was so funny. So we had guys in there that learned from early to, were in it before me. Like they it took 98 and Windows 2000 and all that. I had to learn in 400 hours the operating system, the hardware, and Microsoft clear to the advanced level. And I was in my 30s when I walked in. And it was like, wow, I felt so behind my time. But they gave me Cybex books and I got a grant. I got that class paid for by the state. I got a grant because I was married and they went by my income with kids and yep. Because I wanted to know. I was like, I want to know what cookies are. I want to know where my kids are going. I want to know where they're surfing to. I didn't know the acronyms though. That's what was funny. So when they would say something, I'm like, they're talking dip switch. What the heck is a dip switch? I had no clue what they were talking about. But my teacher was funny. He would flop me in the head and say, "Hey Stacks, how you doing today?" Truly, I never lived it down. It was so funny. To be called Stacks in a computer class was hysterical. He told me I was only the second female to go in. But he did give me a compliment when the guys were making fun of me. He says, well, I can say this. The harder part comes easier to her than it does to you men. Because I was better with the operating system, which is the harder part, and the men were better with the hardware. I could care less about the hardware. I told him, I go, if I want a cord, I don't need to know the size. I just want to go in and pick out a plug and bring it home. And that's what was funny. Like I go, I don't need to know the length of a power cord and all that stuff. I just know what it looks like, where the prongs need to go. And he just laughed because I wasn't into that part of it. I thought the operating part was fun because what came easy to me was downloading programs and figuring out how they worked. And I had a blast with that. And then this one guy said his wife programs software. This just goes to show how people are different with the computer though. He says she can create anything with software team. She's really good with code. He says, but she cannot make a folder with Internet Explorer. He said she can't do any of the simple stuff. So she was one of those brains that could design. You know what I mean? And it is. Even everybody on a computer is different. And I used to think it was funny when I used to sit in the Hackers Lounge on Yahoo, because I could just tell right away who the idiots were that didn't know what they were talking about, because they were starting a fight with this one guy. Okay, just for instance, this guy knew Delphi programming. Okay, when you know Delphi, that doesn't mean you know everything. You just know that particular program. So this guy comes in arguing with this guy saying, well, you act like a computer guru and all you know is Delphi. You're not doing any C++. And I said, you do know those are two different languages, right? C++ is something completely different. If a person goes to school for C++, then they can go far with just that language. This guy didn't take C++, he took Delphi, so it makes you look stupid for asking him that question. Just because a person knows one language doesn't mean they know it all. So it depend on what area the person would pick. That's how I would know they were idiots because they didn't make any sense to me. And one of the guys in the room, he always had me under his wing because he's like, when they would make fun of the women being in the room, he says, not her. He says, because she really came in here to learn. Because even though it was a hackers lounge, I mean, that's just the name of a chat room. A lot of the guys I got to know in there were really into internet security. So it's like, they talked about the latest, like anti-spyware. They talked about the latest antiviruses. They talked about firewalls. And that kind of conversation interests me. I mean, there might have been a lot of females that come in here saying, you guys are putting me to sleep, and they would leave. But I like those conversations. So I would just sit and listen, and I would absorb things that they would talk about. Does it make me a genius? No, but it made me a little bit smarter than what I was before I went to the room because I learned. And it's just like, and it was amazing. Like they would talk, they would throw words in the room like Linux, they would throw in phishing with the PH. I didn't know what that stuff meant. So while they were talking, I was Googling and I would look it up. And then one of the guys in the room actually owned a Linux shop, which is it's not Windows, it's a total another computer setup. So it was really cool. Because one of the guys who was a regular in there, he let me come into his computer because I was like, I want to see what Linux looks like because I've never been into a Linux computer. So he let me come into his computer remotely. Julie, it was so awesome because he gave me his IP and he set up this server. It was called a VNC server. And I took his IP and put it in this little box and it let me right into his computer. It was so awesome. Like my whole desktop changed and I saw his desktop and it was so cool. So then I learned how people remotely fix other people's computers. Like if I have a problem with my HP printer and I let one of their people come in, that's how they do it. And I didn't know, like, it was just the coolest thing. So I got to see what Linux looked like on his computer. And it was so funny because we were goofing off because we were all friends. And the guy that let me in his computer goes, I'll be right back. I have a phone call. And my other friend, Mary, that was in the room, she go, hurry up and pull his cam up, Tammy. She says, put his cam on and then to where he didn't know it, and then, put it, minimize it to the bottom of the screen. I go, Mary, I have no clue where a cam is in Linux. This was so funny. If you'd have been in the chat room at this time, Julie, you would have rolled. This was probably the funniest thing we ever did. So he had a friend that used to come in there under Celtic, however you say that word. And he come in the room and I knew they were friends. Okay, well, he didn't know I was in his computer because I wasn't getting on the microphone. He just saw me typing. So I said, hey, it was Celtic Pirate or Celtic Pirate, however you say. I always say Celtic, but somebody said it's Celtic. I don't know. So I said, hey, I said, do me a favor. And he says, what? I said, I need to tell you something and it's really important. And he's like, what? He goes, what do you need? And I'm like, I need to tell you I'm coming out of the closet. Mary said, oh my God, you didn't. She typed this in the room because he had no clue it was me. And I said, it was the funniest conversation. He's like, what? What are you talking about? I said, we've been friends online for a really long time, and I wanted to tell you I have a crush on you, and I'm coming out of the closet. And he's like, oh my God. He says, I think something's wrong. He says, you sure you ain't drinking, man? And I said, I'm positive. I think you're so hot. Just when I said that, the guy's computer I was in got back. He says, you bitch. He was like laughing, Julie. He was so mad, but laughing at the same time. He says, I will never let you have my computer again. Because I took over his cursor and I could type anything I wanted. Oh my God, it was so funny. We rolled, we laughed. And Celtic, when he came, he says, I am not gay and I'm not coming out of class. He says, that was Tammy and my computer. And Celtic was rolling. Mary was laughing her butt off. She says, she got you though. And I said, I had to do something funny. It's the funniest thing in the world. But we used to have so much fun. I mean, like, we had so much fun together. That's why I can't diss all the rooms and the people on Yahoo when people say it was terrible. I had the best experience. We had so much goofy fun. And then you could make different IDs and you could sneak in the room under another ID like really quickly. You didn't have to have a different account. You had aliases. And I remember this one guy, he used to come in from the UK and he used to talk shop all the time and he'd be up or into something real serious. And I go, nuh-uh, he's lying. And they're a different ID. And he wouldn't say nothing at first. So every time he said something, I had to come back. He says, who is in that ID? And I would roll. When I told him who I was, he said, you're so mean. He started laughing. He says, every time I have a feeling it's you and you always get me. Because I would make up Christmas names and stuff. They were hysterical. I'd make up the funniest names. But we had so much fun playing. We did. We had a blast. We didn't do the remote a lot, but I had so much fun that day. It was so fun. Yes. Us too. And it's really hard. Like, you try to find that same sense of humor on YouTube, and there's a lot of people on here that need to relax. You know what I mean? Like, you try to joke and they're like too serious. It's like, lighten up, people. Enjoy. And at first I kind of did. Like, there was, a few people, I can't deal with people who don't have a sense of humor and they don't know how to I can't deal with uptight people. I just can't. And then when you find the people you can hang out with, it's just so much fun. Oh, me too. I definitely did. It's like I came out of the depression I was in because it's a long story, but like, where I lived was on a dead end. I was always raised in a neighborhood where people talk to each other. So I moved to a neighborhood. We had a dead end. We had no life around us. Like, it was just horrible. And I feel like I fell into a depression because of that. Well, then when I opened up Yahoo, because I wasn't planning on coming to chat or nothing like that when I came into using a computer in the first place, I was more fascinated about emails, and I loved anything that moved. I just went crazy over animated smileys and stuff. I just thought I love the art. I was drawn to all kinds of different art. So I would make emails and put stuff in. Like, I was learning how to do that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know why, I saw the list on AOL Dial-Up one time about chat rooms, and I thought, I wonder what these are about. I think it was more curiosity. And I went into, I think it was Friends 50s or 30s or something like that. I don't know. It was some type of Friends room. And that's when I met this Australian couple. For some reason, I've always had a really good connection with Australian people from the very get-go. And I met this couple and they were so sweet. And I got to know them through chatting with them in the room. And then all of a sudden they sent pictures and they asked me if I knew about Yahoo. And I go, no. I will tell you my first freak out of Yahoo that almost scared me to death. There was no way I was getting Yahoo. Is she said, well, Yahoo is so much cooler because you all have a microphone and you have a camera, people can see you. And I'm like, sometimes I'd be on AOL in my PJs. So, Julie, this is what I thought. When you downloaded Yahoo, people can automatically see you. I didn't know you had to have a cam. This is how illiterate I was with computers. So I'm like, oh, I don't think I want that. She's like, why? Is it because sometimes I'm sitting in my PJs before bed texting, and I don't want people to see me. And she says, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you said people could see you. She said, yeah. She said, but you got to have a cam for them to do that. And I go, well, what's a cam? Oh my God, it was so funny. And I'll never forget the first perv I ran into. He tried to cyber sex me. Oh my God, that was the funniest ever. I didn't know people did that stuff online. And I kept getting these little brick looking things popping up. I don't know if you remember what AOL was like. I just kept hitting no because I didn't know what they were. I thought they were advertisements. I didn't know they were private messages. So this one guy was in chat one day. I should have kept the dialogue because you would have laughed your butt off when I realized what he was trying to do. Because this guy was like, he said something about, have you ever cybered before? And I go, well, sure. I thought he meant searching the web. People that watch this later is going to get a good laugh. Because to me, that's what I thought he meant. Surfing, like searching something. I did not know that's what he meant. So he's sitting there, he's like, oh, okay. I made it sound like I was cyber. I said, yes, Julie, and I had no clue what he was talking about. And so he starts talking. He says, well, I'm going to sit you up on the table. And I said, dude, you can't even pick me up. I don't even know you. This conversation's so funny. And then he started talking, and then it hit me what he meant. I'm like, no, I thought you asked me when I said, you got to be shitting me. This was my comment. People do this for free. I said, you need to call a 1-900 number and pay by the minute, dude, because you ain't getting that shit here. I said, I thought you meant, when you asked me if I cybered, I thought you meant cybering, like surfing, cybering the internet. I didn't know that's what you meant. And I said, but that's what you're after. You ain't getting it here. But oh my God, it was so funny because I said, you set me on the table. I'm going to break your computer. So he dropped the subject. This was so funny. And later on, I ran into him in another chat room and he made a joke out of it. And he says, are you taking the funds out of our, how do you put that? Something about our cyber session to pay for a new computer. I said, shut up. Oh my God, that was hysterical. So I kind of stayed away from chat rooms for a little while after that because I was kind of afraid when I saw that happen. But I thought, you got to be freaking kidding me, because it never dawned on me. And then when I went to Yahoo, of course, then when I was prepared, I knew what to look for. You know, when people would use certain phrases, I would constantly just block them right off the bat, and I just wouldn't talk to them. And then me and my friend that I got to know, we started out with a room of music. It was called All Over Friends and Family, and kept it clean. But it was crazy. It was so crazy, the people you run into online. It is really funny how you learn really quickly. And you wise up. But I didn't have the cam for my first year. And as I got to know people, I owed them cam views, ones that I had known for like a year or so. And then when I did get my cam, we finally did cam and we had fun. But it felt like, I felt like when you were a mystery on there and you didn't have a cam, like some people wouldn't leave you alone. Like, you know, you were bothered more because, you know, if you kept yourself a little bit of a mystery, and just like I told him, it's not that I don't want a cam. I just didn't have one at the time. Heck, I even had the microphone was open in my box. My computer came in. I didn't even know what that was. I kept trying to talk on the mic. No voice would come out. And here my microphone was just this little open mic in the box still with a cord. It didn't have any instructions with it, didn't even say what it was. So I didn't even have voice for a while. But I'll never forget the first guy who jumped on me an instant message. I will never forget. He was from the UK. And I remember going into this room, and all of a sudden, this blocks flew open. This is before I knew how to block them. Popped open into a talk button, and he jumps in my box and says, "Do you really eat roadkill over there in the United States?" He was British. And I was like, "What? Where did you come from?" He says, "Do you really eat deer meat and eat squirrel and eat rabbit and all this other stuff? That's just disgusting." And I'm like, my end scared out of my wits because his voice just boomed right through my speakers on my computer. I literally jumped in my chair because I wasn't expecting. And I'm like, "There's nothing wrong with deer meat." I said, "No, I've never had rabbit. Squirrel's a little too dry." And then this other female was in the room, and she says, he went back and was talking on the mic and said, "We have another United States person that eats roadkill." And then this girl from Arkansas jumps up and she says, "Why do you always bother the new people? You probably scared her to death." And I type it in the room, he did. I said, "He scared me when he jumped in my box and it opened with this green talk button." I said, "I didn't even know you could talk to people." Oh my God, Julie, it was hysterical. "Hey, Luz." And his ID was "What's up in the house?" Straight through, one word. I got to know him hanging out in that room, but I never forgot him because he jumped on me when I went in the room. I said, "You jumped in my box and you violated it." So we had a joke about it, but we became friends. Like, I got to know him through the years after, but it was funny. I said, "You scared me when I first came in here." But I thought it was cool listening to all the accents and all the different people around the world because the room that I became a regular in, it was just so many different people from so many different places. It was just amazing. Like, just hearing them talking and being like, wow, I felt so worldly. And I think that's one thing I never took for granted about Yahoo was that this is so cool because I used to read books and, read about tapestries and carpet and the looks of things and saw it through a book. And like now I'm in a chat room with all these people from different countries I've never been to. And just, it was so beautifully overwhelming. I will never be able to express that into words. And I got that feeling, and I see people getting in that through YouTube. Like, I'll see people that just made channels here, and I got that feeling through Yahoo. And I remember a couple of the guys that I got to know from England who would put their cams in the windows and show me outside their houses. And like one of the guys that did it, they had like stone walls and like people were mowing the grass. The other one lived in a city. And I was teasing him. I go, "Look at you people driving on the wrong side of the road." He goes, "No, that's you Americans." Like, it's so funny the way we could pick on each other about stuff. Like what they call a cookie over here, we call a biscuit. Just learning the different languages and things they used for things was just awesome. So it opened up a new world for me. Like, I flew for my first time because of Yahoo to meet my friend in Florida. I still haven't been out of the country yet, but I do want to see Scotland. That's one of my dreams. I want to go to Scotland for a month. I keep telling my husband that, and he looks at me like I'm crazy. And then after watching Outlanders makes me want to go even more. How are you doing, Liz? Sorry, you know me. I get excited about something. I'm a yacker. But I absolutely loved, I still do. I mean, even meeting people over here from over in different countries is still amazing. But I really miss that about Yahoo because it was my first time. And I remember the one that had the garden. He had these things glowing hanging from a clothesline. I'm like, what is that? And oh my gosh, Julie goes, I found a new use for AOL discs. He hung them on his clothesline to scare the birds out of his garden. I was laughing so hard. I said I would have never thought the reflection of the discs moving back and forth in the wind scared the birds. Oh my goodness. He says, this is what I think of AOL since I got DSL. He was taking the discs and putting them on a clothesline. That was funny. But oh my goodness, I don't know. It was a great time. I met a lot of great people there. And yes, we did get in with the right crowd. And I do miss some of them because the one with the garden, we were really good friends. And just when Yahoo went down so suddenly, it's like people just started disappearing. And I'll never know how his life turned out. Like I have pictures of him and we all hung out in the same room all the time. And I guess we took it for granted because we never thought Yahoo would go anywhere. And when the rooms started getting botted up, like right before the end, only a few of us could fit in the room at the time. And I couldn't even get his address to keep in touch. Some of us sent Christmas cards to each other. I've got a whole bunch of mail from my Yahoo friends. I got a tote with everything I got from Yahoo. Some emails with some friends there and some pictures and letters and Christmas cards and it's just that my memories in a box. There's a few I kept in touch with from the Hackers Lounge. There's a few from that room. It was a romance flirting type room, but we were friends. Not everybody in there was into flirting. And I did keep in touch with some of them, but they're on my Facebook. But I'm never in my name. I'm always on my store name. So I sign into my name sometimes to check up on him. One of them, I have his cell phone and I'll text him once in a while. But some of us did stay close, but then some disappeared. And I often wonder what they're up to now, because we hung out together every day to get that close. And then, you lose so much. And I still remember their names. It was about 60 of us that hung out in the same room. And then we just got really close. I remember Dan, one of the guys from the UK, he sent me a Christmas card one year and he says, you better feel special because I never send mail. He sent me the prettiest Christmas card. I still have it. I will always cherish those guys, though, because we had so much fun. And I have mail for some females, too. But I had a lot of male friends in that room. They kind of protected us in a way because they had a lot of boot issues and things like that. But we all stuck together. We all had a good time. I got pieces of glue on my desk. Who knows? Maybe one day. And I've lost a few that passed away. I don't know if Dan would still be around or not. He was a lot older. And then there was this one guy. Oh my goodness, stories. There was this one I used to talk to in AOL. And he was a rancher. And I remember his son was helping him taking over the business because he says, I'm about ready to retire. He was like in his 60s. And he was the funniest person. If you were in the middle of having a conversation, somebody said something stupid, he was the first one to point it out. Like this one guy, one time he was in the room. This one guy kept asking me to private message me. And I'm like, no, we can talk in the room. After that pervert hit me up, I was like, no, we'll just talk here. And I remember he he kept begging, and the other guy says, "Did you not hear her plain and clear?" He was like an old gentleman. Like, he would set people in their place. And he was so fun to hang out with. He could come up with the funniest stuff sometimes. And I used to laugh. And I remember he disappeared for a while. And I was worried about him because he wasn't feeling very good and he was getting up in age. And so one day I saw his name sign in. And I hurried up and was like, "Hey, what happened to you?" And it was his son. And he had passed away. And I was so depressed because he was so much fun in the rooms. Like, I never heard his voice and never even get to see his face. But we used just to talk all the time. And he was just so funny. And then he was just gone. And I said, "Well, I'm so glad that you signed in on his account so I could at least find out." And he says, "Yes, we will miss him because he was a character." So I did find out that he passed away, but sometimes you don't know. That's the only thing I hated about the internet, is when people would disappear and you didn't know what happened to them. I would rather know. But I told him, I said, "I'm so sorry for the loss of your dad because I had a blast with him. I thought he was a character myself. He was a riot." But you have that. My husband, like, I had my password to my Yahoo written down. That was one of the things that I did. And I told my husband, I said, "If anything ever happens to me, you go in there and you instant message these people and you tell them." It's always nice to have a backup. But it's kind of hard to do that on YouTube. Because, back on Yahoo, you could send that whole entire message to your friends. You put out one message and it would spam down your list. You can't do that on YouTube. He would just have to come underneath my YouTube and run a video somehow to let people know, because I do want people to know what happens to me. I don't want people to left hanging. That's the only thing I hated about the web. Because I know when Rita passed away, I had her husband and her brother on my list. And the sad part about it, I don't know what became of her brother because I know they lost their parents. Neither one of their parents were here. And her brother was a truck driver. And when I met her in person, I met her and her husband, Bob. And Bob had cancer. She never even told me he was sick. And I didn't know it. And here she died in September, and then he died like a few months later. And I talked to Bob after she passed away because he's the one that come and told me. And then her brother came on. It's like, "Bob passed away." "What do you mean Bob passed away?" And he said he was fighting cancer the whole time. I go, "Well, they never said a word. I never knew he was sick. I knew she was with lupus, but I never knew he was." I was like devastated, but I know him and his sister was very, very close. And then one day his ID kept spamming me spam. You know how, like, when somebody leaves Yahoo or they haven't been signed in, you would get these weird messages, like cell phone type messages or something in the end. And I never heard from her brother again. I know his first name was Gary, but I never knew his last name. So I never asked her maiden name. So I don't even have a clue, but I know they were close. But I think he just left Yahoo because I think he was there because of her. I think I'm going to start a new journal. I am yet to do something, but I think this one here I'm going to make as a Christmas present, as a surprise for someone. And I have been thinking about it for a little while. And I've been running thoughts through my head before getting it started. So I don't know. Right now I coffee dyed papers today. Yeah, me too. You know that I went back in to my Yahoo. I still have an account. I just got some kind of key they sent me by email or something. It's probably not going to stay an account. I'm sure it's diminished by now. But I tried, and when they updated, when Windows 10 came out, they wiped my whole list off. I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. So I had a list of people's IDs, and I messaged them individually to see if anybody was still out there, and I never heard from no one. So unless a person had their instant messages open, they would never get the messages. But it like wiped off my whole entire buddy list. It was just gone. So I was like, you got to be, they could have at least left our friends' names on our list. I was furious about that. Because there was another person, Mary, I wanted to get back in touch with too, and I totally lost her too. I even called her cell phone number at one point, and it's disconnected. I mean, I know she switched phones sometimes, like when they would upgrade, she would switch her number too. She did that a few times when we were in chat because we've talked on the phone before and everything, but she just disappeared, and I don't know what happened to her. And then what's even worse is she would get in touch with me, and because we moved, our number changed. So I didn't have a cell phone at that time, so she doesn't have my number at all. Because if anybody would call my old phone number, it's gone because I moved. We couldn't take our phone numbers when we moved because I moved into a complete different area where we had to have the first 3 digits change, period. So if anybody had my old number, I feel sorry for the person that has my old phone number because I'm sure it rang off the hook for a while. Because I had a lot of friends that used to call at one point. And that's another thing I think that kind of changed with the internet too, especially Facebook. People don't call anymore. If it wasn't for me having my bookstore, I probably wouldn't even have Facebook. I only got Facebook because I have relatives that live in Texas, and I had another relative that lived in Maryland who came home for a funeral, a cousin, and she was like, you really need to get Facebook so we can all stay in touch. And I downloaded it because of her to keep in touch with family that's away. But it's like, I'm never in it. And I just think it's rough because I think when you're, family close to me that's like down the road, they never call. It's like they think that you should do everything on Facebook. Well, I don't want my family to be that way. Not my close family. I would rather have it for people away, but like I don't want to talk to my kids through Facebook. I don't want to talk to my parents through Facebook. I want to be able to talk to them on the phone. And it's like, and I just feel like people don't. And then a couple people asked me like during Christmas, they're like, have your cards like really slowed down? And I'm like, yeah, because everybody tells you Merry Christmas at once on Facebook, so they don't send cards anymore. I remember at one point getting like 60 cards for Christmas. Now I'm lucky to get 20. Like it's bad. I think a lot of personal connections lost. I don't know how many we got this last Christmas. I didn't count them. But I just think it's sad, that people don't talk it as much anymore. And I know a lot of family feuds happen too because of Facebook too, because people don't like what the other person's posting. Like a lot of personalities are coming out. And I think that sometimes social media has ruined some families. They have not brought them closer for sure. But I'm not blaming just Facebook. I think any social media where you communicate like that would have done it. I don't think it's just personally per se a Facebook issue. I just think that, like some people using language they don't use around family tends to come out on Facebook, and then they see it and they're like, oh my God, what a potty mouth. And they're embarrassed of them. Like it's changed. a lot of dynamics in the family. And I think it's awful. Sometimes I miss some of the old ways, that's just like I ran into a couple people in my bookstore. They had Facebook and got rid of it. They said, we want our family to talk to us. I had thought quite a few times about deleting my main Facebook account. If it wasn't attached to some other things, I probably would have and just kept my store one. And just because I'm never in it, I'm always in my store Facebook page. And people keep leaving me messages and I don't get them. They're like, did you get my, I'm like, no, because I'm not in that Facebook. I said, you got to add my store Facebook page to get a hold of me. Because I'm never in it. I never have time. Because a lot of the times when I'm in my store, that's when people contact me through my video of the day, that's where they get me at. They come on my store page and say, hey, do you have this book? I'll get messages till 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Must be people with insomnia looking for a book. Seriously, I've had people message me 2 and 3 a.m. saying, do you happen to have James Patterson so-and-so? And I'm like, it is 3 a.m. No offense, but I'm not answering you till tomorrow when the store's open. But they're okay. It's just, I think it's funny. My one daughter says, welcome to customer service, Mom. They never think you sleep. I'm on my Facebook page for my business 24/7. I'm always logged in just for the simple fact that it's always on, being it's in an app. But I don't feel like signing in to the other Facebook page because I always have to put in my password. And then when I go back to the other one, I have to put in the password again. Even though Facebook says all you got to do is click on your picture, they lie to go back and forth between both accounts. Because I have to sign in. I just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes it'll twirl and twirl and twirl, and then it freezes. And it won't let me sign out to sign in. I don't know. It's just a pain to go back and forth between 2 accounts. So I just mostly leave my store one open. Every once in a while, I'll go check my name on. But I have a lot of people. I started out in the makeup community, and I had a lot of people from a lot of different makeup community people on my original name. They're probably thinking I got lost because I used to post a lot in some of their pages. We'd ask questions. Like one of them, even though it was a makeup community, it was very direct and honest. It wasn't like a bull crap. They would do they were like people that did hair. And if you ever had any hair dye questions or just anything, it could be about eyebrow wax. It could be any question you can imagine. There was a girl that used to work at our mall that did my hair that told me about it. She says, come and join our Facebook page. You can ask any question you want, but they want serious people, not, people being stupid, like, causing drama. But if you want to know anything about dyeing hair and things like that, you can ask any question. They had makeup questions, all kinds of stuff. And it's a really nice group. So I got into that group and I got approved because she gave word she knew me when I told her my name. I said, look for my name because I'll join. And it's really cool because somebody would ask a question and they would turn it into a really nice topic. And these girls would all talk about different things, new stuff coming out. I enjoyed it, but I'm never in my name. So they probably think, what the heck happened to her? Because I know I would. Or they might not even know I'm gone. I don't know. But we did have great conversations, though. Now I've got the book community. On my bookstore community, I have all the crafting people that I hang out with in their Facebook pages. I just wish at times one person would just have a page. I think it's just so, why does everybody want to control their own page? I used to tell people, I just wish we had one big page where we could just all meet instead of having 50 different groups to join. It would just make it so much easier because I can't keep track of everybody. But it's like everybody is so wanting to control the page that they don't want to do that. And it makes it rough sometimes. And I was in so many groups at one point, I started unsubscribing because I had so much spam on my page that I couldn't keep up. So I just joined so many groups and only kept a few because I just don't want all that spam on my bookstore page. It's like, how hard is it to have one group called Junk Journals or in crafting, and just who cares who runs it? Just a place where we can all meet. Yep, but I don't care. My hubby's not due to come home yet. I'm still good. I'm still standing. I usually don't get to bed until 3 a.m. almost every night. That's why I'm so tired in my bookstore. I'll be down there working, and then I'll go to sit down at my desk, and I start nodding off. And then I hurry up and jump up, and I find something else to do. And then when I eat a snack, it's even worse because then I eat, and then I want to go to sleep. But for the most part, I know it sounds crazy, but like if I don't eat breakfast, I do better. Everybody keeps saying breakfast is the best food to eat all day. And to me, it makes me tired. I usually go down into my store. Hey, Chris. And I take, my vitamins, and I don't do caffeine. I can't do caffeine. So I like my decaf coffee, but I can't drink any caffeine. But I usually take my vitamins with some milk or some water because some of them you have to have food sometimes. But if I'm not hungry, I'm not going to eat. And I usually don't eat until later. I go down and I work. And then I usually have something to eat probably around 4 o'clock. Julie. But if I eat before I go downstairs, like if I have a breakfast, it's not that I'm not productive. I just don't feel I'm as productive. Because I've been doing a lot of lifting here the past few weeks too, because I've been busting my butt trying to get them books out of that back garage. I'm down to like 1.5 skids, but I don't have no room to put them. And I clean them and then I box them and then I bring them in. So right now I'm trying to move other books. I'm trying to get another live yard or a live sale ready for next month. So I've been pulling things up here when I have the chance and emptying some of the boxes down, up here so that my store right now is a disaster. People come in and it's like a maze. You got to kind of like walk sideways just to get into my door because I've got boxes of books everywhere because I'm just trying to get them out of that back garage. So the past, I would say 2 weeks, I have cleaned off 5 skids, about 5 boxes high on each skid. When I say a skid, I don't mean flat. I mean, they're piled as high as I can get them without falling over. So the past 2 weeks, I have busted my behind getting all of them down to 2. So, and what I do is I take a damp cloth with a bleach alternative on it, make sure it's really rinsed. And I've been rinsing, wiping the books off, reboxing them in cleaner boxes because I've been fighting with dampness in that back garage. And we had a little rat friend come in and decide to munch on a few books. And then we had silverfish come in and decide to eat some of my magazine pages. So yeah, I'm trying to get them all out and away from these rodents into the center. The center of my store is the best place they can be, but it's like overpopulated. So as I go through them, that's what I do. And then once I get them through here and clean somewhat, put into that room, then I go back through the books and I go through them completely. This is just a wipe down. It's a lot of lifting. And the size of the boxes, I do have beer boxes that have handles, but then there are a few bigger. So yeah, my back and my sciatic nerve has been killing me for the past few weeks because I have issues with my sciatic nerve in my back, and I sweat my butt off because there's no air conditioning in that back garage. So it's a lot of work. And for being in my 50s and I'm getting older, it keeps me good in good shape. Like I feel it does, even though I'm in pain. Sometimes I pop a couple ibuprofen before I go to bed. But it is not an easy job. And it was so funny because I remember we had a July, it was like a Christmas in the park last year, and there's this woman that I guess they go into local colleges. They clean a college up, and whatever books are left behind once a person leaves, like they'll find like a bunch of Danielle Steele and stuff like that. They take those books and they bring them to the park for free. They'll lay out a great big table. And I remember this one young girl, she couldn't have been maybe 16, 17. She's like, Mom, is this the last box? This was so funny. And I said, honey, you just filled up one table. Try coming into a bookstore and doing that on a daily basis. I'm in my 50s and you're in your teens and complaining. But that's what kills me is like people don't realize how hard it is. It's like it's a lot of work. Do I make enough out of it? Probably not. It is. It's just it's so much work. You get a workout. That's why when I come upstairs at the end of the day, I just want to get a shower because I'm like so gritty, especially in the summertime. That's why I do fall cleaning in my store. Like right before when fall was here, right before Christmas, I cleaned all of my bookshelves off, wiped everything down, and it's nice. I do all that before Christmas. I don't do that in the spring because I can't handle the heat. I mean, I have good air conditioning downstairs, don't get me wrong, but it's just a lot of work to do in the summer. And then your kids are always complaining on the weekends because then they're like, I've got 6 grandkids and my kids are like, because I have a store at home, they think I could just call off anytime I want to. And they take it for granted. Like I tell my kids all the time, listen, you can't retire in your 50s anymore. I wish I was 50 and retired so I could babysit for you. I would love to spend some time with my grandkids, but I can't because I have to help pay the bills here. This is what my kids don't understand. And one of them's mad at me right now, but she'll get over it because I'm like, I have to do this. Me and Michael cannot make it without both of us working. We'll lose our house. So I said, you guys don't understand how hard it is. You had your time. And I didn't always have babysitters in my family either when I was raising my kids. I had to pay people outside of my family. And it's just, it makes it difficult sometimes. And it is hard being a woman. It really is. And then it's like, a lot of my customers do not have Facebook. So I can put a note in the window if I have a doctor's appointment or I'm not there. And I do post it on my Facebook page. Today I didn't because I thought I was going to be back in time to open the store, but I wasn't. I was late. So I don't know if anybody showed up, but I will tell you what, when my customers show up, they will bang on my door. Because there was one day I did that for one of my girls. Like I was with her and then a customer was mad. And that does not look good for me in the Better Business Bureau to not be there during my times. I've had a few customers show up before. I can sit there for 2 weeks and not one customer will come in. I go somewhere for half of a day and I come back and I get phone calls. I was at your store and it wasn't open today. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I need to put notes. I have to put notes in my windows because if a person would give me a bad review, and that's what my kids don't understand. This is not a joke. Just because I work from home, don't take me for granted. I have a state license hanging in my store. This is a business. And I'm not saying that if an emergency doesn't come up, I can't be there, but I cannot be a babysitter whenever you feel like you need me. This is a 5 days a week, 11 to 7 business, except Wednesdays, it's 11 to 5. And I have the weekend off. And it's hard. Yeah, because my kids don't get it. They think just because mom's home, we can just use her. And I've had my grandkids in my store watching, babysitting them while I'm running the store. And that's even hard too, because they're like, one's running around and he's pulling the cards out and everything else. I can't have that when I'm running a business. Some people don't like that. Having filthy kids' hands all over stuff. Because I have greeting cards in my store too that are brand new. Because I order greeting cards from my store. So, it's like sometimes I feel like when you're a mom, you're taken for granted. You're not respected, that mom has a business, that mom's doing this, and that, you know what I mean? I think it's really hard sometimes. And I can't help it, but I have to do what I have to do too, because if I wasn't working from home, I would not be able to be there in those emergency situations. If I have to work from home, I can't do that, because there was one time I got a phone call and it was an emergency situation, and I did jump right to it because it was an emergency. But when they think it's not an emergency, that they can just call and just use you whenever, that doesn't work that way. I go, how would you like it if I walked into your workplace and said, hey, I need you to come here and babysit me and change my Depends? I told my kids that once, and they just look at me like they don't understand. I'm like, you can't just come in and just do what you want. You have to let me do my life too. And it's like, my kids were like, I could just see you coming into my job. I said, well, you do it to me every day. Just because it's in my home doesn't make it any difference. It's still a store. But it gets rough sometimes, juggling. That's why I say life. Life is the biggest challenge, period. And then down there working and then hurting. Who wants to babysit all weekend? I mean, no offense, but I want a day off. And when I started my store, I was working 7 days a week. I'm also a skilled person that goes in, and they got Hospice Incorporated, where I go in and take care of people that want to die at home, that don't want to be in a nursing home. And I was working 7 days a week to even build my store to begin with. And let me tell you, that second Friday, I was sleeping on my desk. I was exhausted. I mean, in your 50s, trying to do all this is not easy. So that's what kills me, when some smart ass under somebody else's comment section made a comment about me just owning a bookstore. That pissed me off, because I was like, who are you to say just a bookstore? You have no clue what it's like to get a business off the ground. I worked my butt off for this bookstore. I am proud of this bookstore. If they don't like it, they can kiss my butt, because it was a lot of work. I took care of a cancer patient and another lady who had dementia that had to be taken to a nursing home. My one with cancer passed away, and I worked. I didn't just sit on my butt to build this store, that's for sure. It was a lot of work. I started out in my 2-car garage. I painted the cement floor, painted the walls, got this set up with everything. And I worked even volunteer job just to get a bookshelf started, a desk started. I volunteered. I helped a lady clean out a building that was selling as like a thrift store type of deal. Well, the husband and wife were getting a divorce and they were selling the building. So I posted on Craigslist and different things free so that people would come by and pick up stuff. And then I helped her clean that store. And in return, they gave me a desk that's a beat up one, but hey, it was something I could start with. And a bookshelf I still have that bookshelf and I love it. And they got me started there. And then, I mean, I really worked. People have no clue to judge someone else unless they walk in their shoes. And then every bit of money, because I didn't have a loan to get my bookstore started, I did not use a credit card. I used cash because I did not want to go in debt and owe something back because I didn't know how the store was going to do. And a lot of mom and pop shops, that's how they fail. They'll go out and get loans and everything else. I don't have a lease. I don't have rent because it was in my garage, but I had no heat out there. I had no air conditioning out there. So I was hot through the summer and I only have 2 plugs that work. And then one blew out. So I had one socket that worked in there. And I had to literally have a rolled heater under my desk just to keep my legs warm. I mean, if people only knew what I went through to get this store started. That's why I like sharing my story, though, because it was not easy. And my daughter rented downstairs. She lived there for a while. So I couldn't move my store downstairs where the air conditioning and stuff is. So when she moved out, then I was able to move. And you should have seen me trying to provide storage then. My storage was clear back at the back of the house, and my store was clear in the front of the house. So I had to drive to the back of my house to pick up books because there was no way I was carrying them up steps. So I drove to the back of the garage and I would clean the books and bring a box or 2 up to the front. But everybody loved it because I have a door beside my 2-car garage. I have a door that people could come in, and I had my sign on the front of the door. And people would be like, oh my goodness, there's a store in this garage. And when they would walk through the door, I got so many compliments and feedback. They were like, this doesn't even look like a garage, because I had pictures on the wall. I had it dressed up as a store because it's got countertop and stuff. It was really nice when it was done. Now it don't look so nice that we've been parking cars back in it again because it all chipped, like the paint chipped up off the floor and stuff. But when I moved everything downstairs, I didn't have people helping me move these books. My husband and my daughter's husband helped me move the bookshelves once I got the books boxed up because they all worked. So then once I got them done, they would help me so I even took one of the desks down by myself. I turned it upside down and slid it down the staircase just to get it downstairs. My husband's like, what are you trying to do? Kill yourself? I said, well, I need a desk. Like, I had to do things when they were working. I didn't always have someone. So by the time I got everything set up downstairs, it was amazing when it was done, but it took a lot of work to get that transferred all downstairs. I had to box up books and rebox, and all I kept saying, Julie, was this is why people own Kindles and Nooks, because they don't have to move their books anymore. And I do get it, because you have one handheld gadget where you can store all your books and just carry them with you. Having real books, you have a lot of work to do. This one lady, she called me. She goes, since I got a Kindle and my husband passed away, she says, I don't need any of these books. And she says, I wondered if you could come and pick them up. And I was like, okay, what kind of a vehicle do I need? She says, probably a truck. And she wasn't kidding. She gave me ceiling to floor, about 6 bookshelves filled with books that her husband owned, and just said, take them all. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? And I had my vehicle and my daughter's husband's small pickup truck, and we filled that sucker and brought it home. So it's like I had a lot of books, a lot, because people just didn't want to throw them away. So they unhoarded on me. Yep, that's me too, Jolie. Because I told him the faster I get it done, the sooner I can get the door back open. So when we did this downstairs, when my daughter lived there, it was a cement floor, and I had my husband put carpet in because I didn't want my grandbabies crawling on the floor. So we already had carpet down there, which was a good thing because we ripped out carpet out of that room when we first moved in, but I didn't like it. It was a shag. And he's like, I see how you are. You got new carpet. And I said, yeah, but I would have not liked the shag carpet. I like the carpet that's in there now because it's dark and it's a nice, pretty brown. And when people walk in, that's a good carpet. It's scrubbable and it's sweepable because we have a hard floor where, I have like a couple rugs. You walk in that section first and wipe your feet and before you come on the carpet. So I've never had too much like mud or anything on the carpet. But it's just a lot of work. It was a lot of work. But that's what kills me. It's like, don't insult. If you're going to insult my store, do it behind my back where I can't see it. But don't insult it where I can see it. Because if you do, I will tell you off. And yeah, that person did get told off. They made that comment in the comment section. I'm like, you're not in my shoes. You don't have a clue what it's like to start a business. And you shouldn't be shooting your mouth off in somebody else's comments about what I do. And that might get me in trouble. I don't care. But it's the truth. I don't walk on eggshells on how I feel. I'm a very blunt person. And if people don't like my bluntness, then they don't need to be around me because I'm not changing. Just like my grandmother used to say, I'm too old to care and I'm going to be who I am till the day I die. And if you don't like it, tough shit. That's how I feel. Then here lately, what did somebody call me? Somebody in my own family called me what's that word? Oh, I can't even think of it. What's the heck of that word when a person sits in front of a mirror and only admires theirself? Chauvinist? Is that what it's called? I don't know. They called me a name. I'm like, what? I said, before you go labeling somebody, why don't you look in the mirror? I said, because I had to look up the definition of what that person was even talking about. And I think it said somebody, I don't even look in a mirror. I'm lucky to look in the mirror if I brush my damn teeth. Where they got this label on me is like, okay, whatever. Just because I'm headstrong and I'm passionate about things doesn't make me what you're calling me. I said, I looked it up and I am so not that person. I read a bunch of definitions on, I can't remember what the word was. I just thought it was stupid. I said, how dare you say that to me? A person that never thinks of others. I forget what the word was. I don't think it was chauvinistic. It was something else. I can't remember. But my husband laughed. He goes, where are they getting that from? He goes, you're the one person I know that's always going out of your way to help people. And I don't understand where they got that word. I go, I don't know. It's just somebody that's probably jealous. I don't pay attention to people, even if they're in my family and they act stupid. One, two, three, 4, 5. I don't know how many things. I think I might want to divide these up by 5s. There's 4. I never know how many papers to put in a journal. Like I know some people will add like a bunch. And I don't want to add too much where the book is like huge. So I like never know. Five pages gives you 10. I hear you, Julie. I know my oldest daughter's like me. She's funny in that way. My mom used to say something. She used to say, every time I turn around, that kid, she's got a trail wherever she walks, her clothes are. That's how I used to be too. I would have This was me my whole life. I would have my room so neat in my drawers. Like, you would open my drawers, everything was folded so nice, but I was a terrible clutterer. Like, I would come home and just sling a towel here and a shirt there. But I always had clean stuff. You know, like, if you would get into my closet, it was organized. If you would look under my bed, it was organized. Like, I was always a deep cleaner. But surface, I have stuff everywhere. And my husband laughs because we're the total opposite. Like, when he knows his mom's coming to visit, he's shoving everything in the closet. He's that type that if you open the closet door, everything's going to fall on you because he wants the surface clean. So it's funny. You should see when me and him clean the house. He like doesn't deep clean and it gets on my nerves. Like, he don't clean up dirt. He would just rather shove everything in one place so that the surface looks like there's nothing there. And I can't stand it. I'm like, no. But I said, if we would have like dinner guests, I guess we would compliment each other because he would have the surface clean immediately. But I laughed at us on how we are because me and my sister were the same way. When we shared a room growing up in it, we had a dividing line of tape because her side of the room had to be surface neat. She didn't care if her clothes were wrinkled and shoved into a drawer in a ball. Where me, I would have stuff everywhere, but everything in my drawer was neat and folded. So she's like, I'm drawing tape because you clutter too much. I am. I'm a terrible clutterer. I know my flaws. Yeah, and that was a big pet peeve. Before my house was broken into where I used to live, I didn't care if a person come in and dusted and read it up or whatever, or even got into my refrigerator and cleaned stuff. I had no problem with that at all. But ever since our house was broken into, I literally have anxiety attacks when somebody touches my stuff. That's where I had a hard time. And I realized what caused it. Just knowing that your stuff was violated and somebody else touched your things just is the worst violation a person could go through. And my husband just doesn't get it. I will not let him touch my stuff. And one time he did, and I about had an anxiety attack. And I was like, don't touch my stuff. And he thought it was a joke. And I said, Michael, it's not a joke. I was furious to where I was in the point of tears. And I looked like a crazy person because I felt like a crazy person. And I'm like, you just do not understand the impact that had on me. Because it just there's just something when you're violated, it just changes how you feel. And I can't, to this day, I have such a hard time. Like, my daughter will even say to me, Mom, if you have a hard time, wanting to like deep clean this room and you want some help, I can't stand the thought of somebody touching my stuff. It isn't about cleaning the room. Let me empty the room. You can wash all the walls you want. But touching my things drives me nuts. It's like, I can't stand it. If I'm standing there and I give you something to look at, that's a different story. But for somebody just to enter my house and start picking up my shit, you're going to have me all up in your business. Because it's just, ever since I was violated, it's horrible. It got to me so bad at one point, I thought I was going to have to see a therapist. It was bad. And because my husband was like, I'm your husband, I don't care. I don't want anybody touching my stuff because I feel like when I can't find something, it's that panic. It's not even him touching my stuff. I just don't want my stuff moved. And I noticed, like, the second time we were robbed, because we were robbed more than once. And the second time we were robbed, it's like once you are violated, the second time we got violated was in this house. And I noticed any little thing out of place. This is what happens when you get like this. And I remember coming out to the kitchen. My purse was sitting there and nothing was touched. But it was a door that was 3 inches away from the wall. That door is never away from that wall. And I know this is going to sound crazy. Well, thanks, Luz. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I walked into the kitchen and this door was not against the wall. This door is always against the wall. And I thought, it's just you, Tammy, because this is what makes me mad when people say you're crazy and stuff and you're not. And it's like, and then I just didn't think about it because I saw my purse there. My first thought was, oh my God, what is that door doing away from the wall? My second thought was to look at my purse, which I saw, and I went over to it. There was nothing missing. I'm like, Tammy, it's just you. There's something, you're just seeing things. Okay, there's perfectly good explanation for this. So my husband comes home from work and he sits down in the living room to do his bills. Now, mind you, me and him walked in and out of this room 3 times. And he went to hit the remote control to the TV and it didn't turn on. And he was like, what the hell? And he looked up and the TV was gone. Our TV was stolen. All of his games were stolen from his PlayStation. We were so violated again and didn't even know that it was gone. But I knew that door. And my thoughts went right back to that door. As soon as I heard him scream across the house, that door came right back to my mind, being 3 inches away from that freaking wall. And I'll be damned if we weren't robbed again. So every little thing you notice is out of place. It's one thing to clean and lose stuff, but it's another thing to have that feeling and know something's not right. And I hate being violated. And I don't like, it's more personal. Like if he picks up the dishes off the table or whatever, washes the dishes, that doesn't bother me. But I have a hard time when it's like, don't touch my books. Don't touch my makeup, like my personal stuff. I have a really hard time with it, and I'm trying to get better with it, but it isn't easy sometimes. Because he'll go to pick up a box of books. Why did you move it? Like, I'm like right on top of him, and I don't, it's getting easier as time goes on, to get me wrong, but at first it was awful. But he just couldn't understand it. Like, he's looking at me like I'm stupid, but he knows the feeling because he doesn't like anybody touching his stuff either. And I go, so why do you think it's okay that you touch my stuff when I can't touch your stuff? It's like, it's so hard for him to put himself in someone else's shoes. And that, I don't have that problem. I can sympathize with people without being in their shoes. If that makes any sense. Like, I've seen people tell other people something tragic that happens to them, and they just dismiss it. Like, they're not really listening to the other person. And then I've seen people listen to people's stories, and even though they hadn't been through it, they were able to sympathize. And there's some people that don't have that ability to sympathize. It's like, I have someone who's in my family, and it's terrible, but it's like, they can't understand until it happens to them. Like, if somebody tells them it happened, like say somebody says, this happened to me and it was something tragic, they blow it over like there's nothing. Like it doesn't mean anything. But when it happens to them, they want your full attention. Like they're the only person in the world this happened to. Where me, I relate better to people who have had the same experiences or people who can sympathize. I have a problem relating to people who are cold. And usually when I pick up about that, like that type of person in my life, I kind of shut them out. I don't like cold people that just dismiss other people's feelings. It's like I like people to listen to what someone else is going through. Because even when you look up, like, for instance, say you have somebody in your family that has a mental illness, you can look up the definitions as much as you want, but it doesn't tell you what the person's feeling. It only gives you the definition of what it is. Where me, I'm the type that I want to know what that person's feeling. I want to know not by reading on Google, but by what they're personally going through. Maybe that's why I was really good at being a therapist when I was one, when I was out in the field with people, because I've had feedback from some of the people who I worked with that said, you don't hold a clipboard in front of you and talk down to me. You talk to me. And that's the best feeling in the world, is to get that feedback from someone who was your client in the mental health field. Because I didn't even realize I was that type of person. You know what I mean? Like I was hoping I was, but just to get that type of feedback is great. And what's funny is there was 3 of us that hung out together when I was into that field. And we all 3 were the same type of person. That's probably why we got along so well. And then you had this other group who they just like, I'm going to fix the world. Like, I'm just going to go out there and what I say is going to fix people. That's not how it works. You can't fix people. They have to do it on their own and they have to do things on their own. So, I just think it's sad, that people label me to be the wrong type of person that I'm not, because they don't know me well enough. Yes. Yeah. I was talking about that with my one grandmother. She had dementia, and it was really funny the things that would trigger her, Julie. She wouldn't say nothing for like 2 days, and then my mom would stick a disc on her stereo to play Rock of Ages or the old Rugged Cross or, one of the old gospel songs. And because she played the piano in church all her life, she would start humming it out of nowhere. It's funny how dementia people go in and out and things that would come back to her. And then I remember she didn't speak one time for 3 days. I think I told this story before, and nobody else likes black licorice in my family. I love black licorice. So I was always the one eating the black jelly beans left over. And I remember her sitting in a chair one day, and I had eaten a bunch of them. They turned my tongue black, and I went blah. My grandma, because she was staring at me sitting in her chair in another world because she had dementia. She turned around and looked at, she just looked at me doing it. And then she comes out and goes, blah to you too. It was the funniest thing because she didn't speak for 3 days. And then all of a sudden she did that. My mom was rolling. She says, that is so funny. She'll say nothing for 3 days until you make that face at her. And then she came back at you. But like, I just feel like when people are in that state, they shouldn't be ignored. Like when Janet had cancer, even though she didn't go nowhere and she didn't want to go nowhere, she didn't want people to see. I would sit down at the table with her and be like, let me do your nails. And she just kind of looked at me. She said, what do you want to do my nails? I said, let me just do your nails. Because what happened was, she was eating food and she would not let you get underneath her nails and they were letting them grow out and she wouldn't let nobody near her. She had an attitude, this woman did. She used to be a teacher and she was very strict. So she had food caked under her nails and they needed cut. So I was trying to think of a nice way because you really had to work your way around to fool this woman because she like just to get her to take some of her pills. Like my mother used to take and mash this one pill in my grandmother's applesauce just to get her to take it because when she seen pills, she would spit it out. This woman would not eat anything soft, Julie. We could not get pills in her for nothing unless she saw the pill. She wouldn't eat applesauce. She wouldn't eat anything you could sneak her stuff in. You couldn't do it in orange juice because this one pill tasted awful if you mixed it with orange juice because we tried it and tasted it. It was nasty. I wouldn't have drank it either. So we were trying to figure out a way. I was trying to figure out a way just to clean her nails because I know they had to be hurting her because she had food caked under them and they were like really long. They were turning into witches' nails. So I was just sitting at the table and I had a kit with me and I had, and I told her, I said, just let me take your nails. I said, let's paint them a pretty color. Well, she liked the color pink. So I pulled out some pink fingernail polish. I brought it from home and I had an embroidery board and stuff. And I was like, just let me play with your nails for a little. And she's like, oh, okay, that would be pretty. Like I talked her into it through the pink and she let me. But I said I had to be real careful because her nails needed clipped. And the only pair of nail clippers she had, I didn't think to pick up a pair from my house. She wanted to use the ones that were her grandfather's. And we're talking the big, bulky, not sharp kind. And all I kept thinking was, oh my God, how am I going to use these on her nails? Because it was just awful. These nail clippers were terrible. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, if I bust one of her nails and hurt her, I'm never going to hear the end of it. But I did. I worked it down just a little piece at a time. I would just do like a corner because they needed sharp. It was a really old kit. And I mean, considering she was in her 80s and they were her grandfather's, hello, we're talking old kit. I think the razors in it were rusted. So I did talk her into it and I got her nails clipped down and then I took an embroidery board and I went over and made her nails look clean and then I painted them pink and stuff. She was so tickled when they were done. But just to get all that food out from underneath it was awful. Because she ate a lot of toast and things like that and they would get up underneath her fingernails. But I was so glad she let me do that. Her daughter came in. She's like, oh my God. My mother's got fingernail polish. I said, yes, and her nails are clean. But there's always a way around. You just got to find it, and you can't be the label this other person called me and pull that off. So that's what I said. I don't like when people label. I forget what she called me. I'll have to ask my husband when he comes home. Because I just shook my head. I was like, whatever. I was waiting for her to say I was a sadist. I don't even know what that is either. I'd have to look it up. But it was just like unreal. People calling you names just because you won't do what they want you to do. It's like, please. But I do miss that job. Like I had that job and they don't have no patients up my way because a bunch of other companies were opening up the same kind of business. So they haven't had no clients up here. I'd be back to working again because I do miss the elderly people. I love sitting with old people and listening to their stories. And we'll see what happens, but there's an opening in one of the local places and it's nice. I mean, like I miss my bookstore when I'm with them, but then I miss them when I'm at my store because I felt torn between both jobs at times. I like my bookstore because a lot of the times I'm by myself and I'm not bothered, but then on the flip side, I miss being around people. So there is a job opening right now locally close to me where I probably could go down and apply for the weekend job again. We'll see. Because I do miss spending time with some of the elderly people. I miss my grandparents. I lost them too young. And I never thought I would ever be in the medical field or do that type of job, but I got a lot of compliments. I mean, the last lady that owned the company that I worked for, she said, you were always reliable. She said, you came in, you did your job. You know, I cooked, cleaned. I mean, I even took my own food. Sometimes if I wanted to cook something homemade, because I know, like, I'm not saying this person's a bad person, but like the lady who I took care of after Janet, her first name was Dolores. She loved the polka. Oh my God, Julie, it was so funny. Sometimes in her dementia, she would try to book out of the house, and I would distract her with the polka. I'd put the polka music on, and she'd be dancing all around the house. She was fun to dance with. We'd be just scooching our feet and having fun. But I just miss it. You know, like I had so much fun with them too. And then when she had her taken, you know, because she was getting to a point where she was getting out of hand, she kept trying to run out the door and the other girls couldn't handle her. And she was slamming drawers and things like that. And she had me transition her. But I mean, like I'm saying, not being bad, but like she would have frozen Eggos. I don't eat Eggos. To me, that's not a waffle. I want a waffle. I want it from Bisquick. So I would take my own batch in of food and I would eat with her. I would cook for her and cook for me. And she's like, you didn't have to do that. I go, but I wanted to. It's no big deal. And she would woof them down. She'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like she hadn't had a waffle before a day in her life. So, but I loved cooking for her. She was a lot of fun to cook for. We're always eating something together. And plus having dinner with her too. But when I transitioned her to the nursing home, there was another lady that worked with her 5 days a week. And I'm like, why did you pick me? I said, I only worked with her on weekends. And she said, because you're good with my mom. And here she had ADT security in her house the whole time. And she could watch what we did with her mom. So she got to see what everybody did. And she says, you were just really good with her. So I transitioned her to the nursing home. Like I took her in, we ate dinner with people, and I would sit with her and help her get used to her surroundings. It's the first time I've ever done that. It was fun. Yeah, I know. I hated when I lost my grandparents. It was just hard to see grandparent cards and them not be here. Julie, that's like my dad. He loves chocolate covered cherries, and he will tell you, do not buy that Queen cheap stuff either. He doesn't like the Queen Anne's. He likes every other chocolate covered cherries but those ones, and I didn't know it. It was the only ones they had here. Like they have Andy's chocolate here, but it's a mixture. Like I can never find their chocolate covered cherries as just a box. So I took him Queen Anne's one year. He goes, those are the cheap ones. So I never bought them for him again. But he's a diabetic now with my mom and my brother. Me and my sister so far have gotten away with not having it. I just got tested here again recently. And I wish I could sneak my dad's sweets, but now I can't. But my sister does. And the last time I went to see the family care physician, he had mentioned about the diabetes. That's why he had me tested, because I've been having some issues, but it's not that. And so they did blood work and everything. And he said, no, you're fine. He said, but your dad sure isn't. That's all he said to me. And I said, what about mom? Because they, you know, usually you can't talk about stuff because of HIPAA. He's like, your mom's doing great. So my dad must be sneaking sweets. And that is a tough, he wasn't always diabetic. He only found out here not too long ago. So that is a hard transition to make. And I thought he looked bad the last time I seen him too, but it's hard to talk to him about stuff because he's headstrong too. He's even worse than me, which is bad. But I don't know what's going to happen to them. But mom, she's used to it. She's been at it for a little while. My brother had a hard time getting used to it at first. How he found out was he fell asleep driving and ended up in a ditch and woke up. And here he was, it was his sugar. That's how he found out he was diabetic. That would be horrible. He just, thank God he didn't get hurt and he didn't hurt nobody when he was driving. But oh man, I can't even imagine. Because my mom had high blood pressure and diabetes. Not to have salt and not to have sugar, that's like bland food. But my doctor tells me all the time I'm never going to have to worry about high blood pressure because he can never find mine. They go, we know you're sitting here alive. But my blood pressure is always not too low where it gets me in trouble. But he says it's just really faint. He says it's hard to hear. I've had nurses literally go get the doctor to come and listen because they can't hear it. But he said it's there. He said it's steady. He says it's just yours is faint. That's all. Just harder to pick up on for some people. Yes, my dad don't like dieting. He's always been middle of the night refrigerator raider. So he's hard to he's a hard one to get to not eat. Yeah. So here's 10 on this one. I was trying to figure out how big I want to make this. I don't know. Usually I do like, because I am going to swap these papers out with something, but I was trying, because somebody was saying they did 80 pages in a book. I don't know if I can do it one that big. I think it would be like way too open. Like you would never be able to embellish it. It would have to be a pretty big spine to do 80. But isn't it weird how my mom's family is 6, and it was all the guys that had diabetes. She was the only girl. Isn't that weird? And then like my cousin Denny has it. My brother, like it's in the men harsher for some reason. So this would be 20. And this would be 40 altogether. Front and back. That's how I try to look at this. Five. Yeah, because I always keep doing 10. But I mean, if I wanted to do less signatures, I guess I could do 3. See, I don't know though, because I think you'd have to go by the spine of the book. So this is what I mean. Like just putting these 2 in. These 2 signatures, for example. Look how much your book's open already and it's not even decorated. Because that spine's not that big. Because I don't want it to be an alligator mouth. Like it could be tied at this point. This would be 40. I guess I could do this just 2 signatures. And let's see how this would look. think this is another 10. Because you got to figure out the signatures. See, that's what I was thinking. Somebody asked me if I ever ironed papers, but I've never done that before. Seven, 8. 9, 10. So 60. Could be 80 right there, but let's see. Let's take 5 off of this one. 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 now. There's 15 there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, there's 15 in each. So there's 60 altogether. So we'll take, let's see what this looks like together just for the fun of it. So there's 5 more. And then 5 more on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this here should now be a total of 80 on both sides. Look at that. That is one squishy book. All right, Julie. Well, thanks for coming in and visiting with me. I might have to iron them. I don't know. Either that or less than the amount of pages. I just don't think the spine can hold this many. I think it would be too out there because of it's not decorated yet. Yep. I think the spine would have to be thicker. I mean, if I cut the book and made the spine thicker, I could, but I really don't want to do that. I wanted to reinforce it and kind of leave it as is. I might just be able to make it a smaller book. So if I took 10, yeah, take these 2 and split them up. That still would be 20 pages front and back. I don't know if that's a good amount or not. We got our shower back. Huh? Oh, we got our water back. Yay! You think that's skinny enough, or should I add a little more? I was just trying to think of when people write in a journal, I think the last one I counted was almost like 100 pages. Like I want to, it depends on how long they would want to use it for. Because you can do one that'll last a month or you can do one that'll last a year. I mean, I personally wouldn't care if it lasted a month, but it just depends on what a person wants to pay for it. I've seen like 80-page journals priced at $125, which I don't want to go that high. But sometimes it's just really hard to figure out how to price them with how many pages. Usually I like to put about 50 pages in mine, front and back, you know, because that would be 25 pages. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I don't know. Maybe I'll just do 30. That way I can do 15. Yeah, I think 30 pages may work better for this because that's not too bad where it's sitting right now. I like doing this first. Hey, Tabby. And then, going back and swapping out pages. Like I'll swap out these pages for like different sizes and like envelopes and things like that. But I just want to get a feel of what it feels like with all these pages. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be these pages. This is just what I do. And then I go back and I will go through my stash and then, you know, decorate it up with different sizes. How are you doing, Tav? You having a good evening or whatever time it is where you're at? I think that's a good amount. That's not too bad because if you go to tie it, it'll squish down. I just don't want to make it too full. I mean, I guess I could rebuild the spine to make it wider. None of my books ever lay flat. They're always puffy. Are you crafty, Tabby? Did you leave, Julie? If you haven't left, Julie, sweet dreams. Maybe that's what I will do. Maybe I will iron the papers. That's what Lou suggested. These pages here need cut down a little bit more though. But this might work. They smell so scrumptious. One thing I don't like about cutting these pages down though is I like this darkness right here. And if I would go to cut them shorter, that's not going to be there. It'll cut off the scrunchy part, scrumptious part. I don't know, because I don't want to find a bigger book. I like the size of this book. Just some of the pages are sticking out over. Guess I could. Wrap this one a little different. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, that's all I wanted to get done, so we're good. So anyways, whoever is here, thank you for coming. Thanks whoever came in for spending your time with me this evening. I'm going to go. You guys have a good night or morning or wherever you're at. A great time. Good night. Mwah.